Hey, gang. Welcome. Good to see everyone out there in the YouTube land. Welcome to the Sunday evening hangout, special Father's Day edition with my pops, Dave Coombs.
Howdy.
Let's see here. We've got Fender Guru in the chat and Tanaka already. Good to see you, boys. Good to see you. Let's see who all jumps in here in a moment. For some reason, I'm not getting this live down here. That might change in a minute once we go for a few minutes. So yeah, Father's Day edition. Gorgeous day outside. It was not hot, but it wasn't raining. It's not snowing. So yeah, warm day. So, well, we got Hunter in the house. Just jumped in. Good to see. Fender Guru says, hey, Ben's dad.
Hey, how you doing?
So he's the Stones fanatic and Brit Rock, a huge Clapton fan as well.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I got a few friends over there in Britain.
And he's in Hamilton, New Zealand. I think
Hamilton, New Zealand. Is that downtown Hamilton or in the suburbs?
Yeah. Oh, there he is. Who's that? We got Mr. BHB. I think that's Bruce. Says Happy Father's Day.
Hey, thank you.
Bruce tuning in from Ohio. He's got the wrench, so watch out. Behave, gang. He's got the wrench.
He's got the wrench.
There's Jim Guidry from Shreveport, Louisiana.
All right.
Mitch Heyman.
My buddy CW plays down there a lot.
Yeah. Mitch Heyman's out of Pennsylvania. We got Lil David Ennis. I believe he's out of Missouri. Columbia, Missouri, maybe. Yeah. Everyone's just hopping in. Figured give him a minute here to jump in because we did go a little earlier. So, NASCAR Canuck. You know who that is.
The NASCAR Canuck?
Yeah.
Your cousin?
Possibly.
Doug?
Yeah. Bumblebess tuning in from the UK. Hello, everyone. Don't hit me with the wrench. Quite all right, buddy. Everyone's saying howdy to each other. That's a great thing. You get such a community. Like the chat just starts flying as soon as you get a few people, just because everyone's got to say hey to each other. And
sure. Hey, everybody.
Yeah. That was Mark Taylor, I believe, out of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, we have a Mark Taylor.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's not. Same thing I say to Rich. Not that Mark. Not that Mark
Taylor. Right.
No.
Yeah.
So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. We can talk about. We got a comment. Oh, that's on the gear review. Thank you, Bumblebess. I'll check that out a little later. Very kind words he was saying there.
I keep leaning forward because I can't read from the distance.
Yeah, it's quite.
What's on the screen there?
Yeah, I'm not much better. So I'm just,
all right.
I don't.
Well, hey everybody! It's great to meet y'all. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, we got Sinner tuning in from north of Detroit. Nice. Awesome stuff. Thank you, guys. So, yeah, any questions? We got a few stories to tell. Michael Smith will be joining us later. Let's just say he's hit some C's and he's not quite made it to port yet. So, yeah. And NASCAR Canuck chimes in. That's a family trait, apparently. So it's not just us.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that why you sit so far forward when you drive, Doug? Just permanent? Dry Heat 480 out of Arizona. Wow. Road stories. Road stories.
What does that mean?
I guess.
Oh, you want to hear some road stories?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah.
Some of them can't be repeated. You know that.
Yeah, I was telling him last night.
You never know when the law is watching.
I was telling him how, back not too long before I became old enough to drink, there were still 7 places in town for live music. And ranging from small pubs up to full-on roadhouses and stuff. And he's like, well, how many people could get in there? I said, well, 200-300 people, easy. And he said, no way. He says, well, what's the layout? And I said, well, have you ever seen the movie Roadhouse? He says, that's not real. I said, well, there's been a few venues like
it is
full-on with chicken wire. Yeah, I think the Royal in Picton only got rid of their chicken wire in the 90s?
Well, I played there a lot.
Yeah,
it was an interesting place to play, and we had some experience there. Yeah.
Oh, there's Mama in the chat.
Hi, Ma.
I'm listening and hi. Yes, awesome. Oh, saying Doug says no, he's just up on the wheel. Oh, okay, up on the wheel. Yeah, a few places played. And see, Bruce is asking the story of when you bought the telly. How about we wait a few minutes on that one, Bruce? We already got 13 people watching.
Isn't that great?
Wonderful. Wonderful. And once we eliminate friends and family, we got 3.
Well, no, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Word will get out.
Yeah. It'll be an overnight sensation. It takes 20 years, but sure. It's all great. So, Bruce is a Tele owner himself. Jim Guidry's got a Tele style guitar. Teles are very popular. As Rich always says, everybody should have a Tele.
Well, it's kind of like having a right arm, If you're going to be a guitar player, then it comes in handy. It's just a basic, it's like a 10 millimeter socket, half-inch wrench or stuff like that. You got to have a hammer, and in this case, you got to have an axe. Yeah. That's mine over there. It was my axe, but it's his now.
We got R2R3 Locky Nut, brother of mine, tuning in from the greater Chicago area.
Chicago.
Yeah. Says, hey, everyone. Happy Father's Day. On my way home from the movie. See y'all in a few.
One time back in the 80s, I checked the AF of M, the Federation of Musicians, listings for Chicago, and there were over 5,000 blues musicians listed in the local.
Just in the local.
Union in Chicago. Yeah, and I've known a few of those.
Yep.
Yeah, some very good people.
Yeah, we
very good people.
All kinds of stuff we can talk about, gang. So, we're up to a Sweet 16. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Oh, 15. I hexed it.
It's all right.
All right. Everyone's just saying hey to each other. Well, all right. Well, everyone wants to see the Tele.
Well.
So, where did you pick this up?
I bought that in Scarborough, which is like Toronto, for all you people that aren't familiar with in Canada, if you're even less familiar. I bought it in '67, in the fall, I believe it was 67. Yeah. A friend. I knew him fairly well by the name of Bill Price. He was from England, by the way. Bill was a saxophone player. And he opened a music store in Scarborough, and Bill Price Music, it was called. And I bought a guitar and amplifier from him, not this one, but a Japanese guitar, an Aria, semi-acoustic hollow body thing, and an amplifier, and although it was Japanese, it happened to be a really decent guitar. So after I bought it a couple of months later, that would have been the spring of '67. He offered to buy it back. He said he had a customer that wanted to buy it badly, this guitar. He'd heard about it, and so he offered me more money than I paid for it. Now, when I was a kid, I wanted a Fender guitar so bad, but I was financially challenged most of my life, and therefore, when I was about 7 years old, I started saving money. I wanted to play saxophone, so I figured I'd save enough to buy a saxophone. Then in the early '60s, electric organs came out, the portable ones, and the Beach Boys are playing them. And so I thought, well, I'll buy one of those. And by the time I was maybe 13 or 14, I had saved $75. And so I decided I was going to buy a guitar. And I at that time in the early '60s, thereabouts, Fender came out with the Mustang model, and they were affordable. But I still didn't have enough, and my parents couldn't help me out. So anyway, I ended up buying a cheaper guitar. So later on in the '60s, I'm living in Scarborough in Toronto, and I see this Fender Telecaster, and I'm thinking, hey, I could trade my Aria in get a credit for it, more than I paid for it, and buy this 67 Telecaster, which was always a dream of mine. And so I did. Bill Price had sold his music store, and it was taken over by Sykes Music, I believe. And so when I went in just after they took over the store, I said to the guy, Bill had offered me this deal on the Telecaster, and they said, okay, we'll honor that deal. So there was a guitar player in the store at the time by the name of Scotty Kessler. He was a well-known guitar player around Toronto at the time, and he had borrowed my area to play some gigs. And so he happened to be there in the store. And so when I made the deal, the guy handed me the guitar, and I handed it to Scotty, and I said, you know how I like to set them up, right? And he said, yeah. I said, you set this one up for me. And it remained that way for a very long time until I had it refretted. The guitar had to be refretted, the nut replaced 2 or 3 times.
Went through a few neck pickups.
A couple. Actually, 3 actually. The original one, and then a cheap Eagle, I think it was called, aftermarket one I threw in there. And then I took a trip down to New York State, and I bought the EMG kit, which included the switch and full wiring kit, and I put that in. That was in the 80s.
I think 85,
somewhere in around there, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And the guitar I've had a lot of other guitars and some really fine instruments, you know, but the Telecaster always remained, you know, if when you play rockabilly and country and rock and roll, you know, it'll cover you. It'll keep you going.
All right, I'm just going to jump in here because, wow, the chat is blowing up. Everyone's saying that's an awesome guitar. Awesome. And see, I saw we got Caleb Rapoport tuning in from Santa Monica. He says, Papa Coombs.
Relatives out that way.
We got Tobin. I believe I just found out last night Tobin's actually Canadian from Halifax, I believe.
Downtown or in the suburbs?
And
I always ask that question because there's a different kind of people, you know.
We got JC Smith tuning in from the Halifax area as well.
Yeah. You may notice...
Zach Thong from Oshawa. Wow.
You may notice that I speak with a somewhat southern accent, and that is an issue that I've had my whole life. I am actually from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia originally, but I never sounded like somebody from there. When I'm in front of a microphone and it carries on, then I happen to speak and perform and sing with a
apparently Tobin's from Sydney.
Southern accent. Tobin, I know Tobins. They were in my neighborhood in Ashby, and very close family friends. Mechanic Street, I believe, and Prince Street too.
Yeah, let's see.
Anyway,
who else we got tuned in here? I saw we got JJ's House of Jams. That's another buddy out of Orange County, California. He's the crazy guy that decided to put up Rich and me when we go out to NAMM next year.
Ah, right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. If you want to help us get there, we do have a GoFundMe link down below. Yeah. Every little bit helps. We got JJ Collins tuning in from Arizona as well. ET5150 from Australia. Tell you, we're global. We're global. We got Terry's GG&G. He's from Cottage Country, Georgian Bay area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Lots of. And apparently Bruce enjoyed your story.
Well, thank you so much. It's nothing exciting. You know, it's just the way it was. You know, you just did what you could afford. And that's what it's all about. And
yep.
And that's what I could afford. Although I did have this Gretsch, what was that model? It was a beautiful guitar.
Was it a Duojet?
59 Duojet that I bought because the guy needed the money. And I bought it off him, and I had no use for it. It was a beautiful guitar, played well. If you were a rock musician or whatever and you needed a great guitar, and that's exactly where it went. A young fellow needed a guitar, and he had just joined a rock band, and so I gave him this guitar to try out, and I said, if you like it, you send me the money, and he did, and I never heard about it again, although I did see one. A friend of mine from Toronto had pictured one, and I messaged him, and I said, that could be my old guitar.
Right.
And just the other day, and he said, well, that photo was taken a few years ago, and it wasn't my guitar. I borrowed it for a gig, and from a guy that I was playing in a band with, and I don't remember the band's name or him.
R2R3 Locking that's asking where the captain is. The captain is running late. He will jump in when he's available. So hopefully he won't be too long. So he had some work-related stuff. JJ's House of Jams, showing with all the guitars and the devil's horns. You rock, Mr. Coombs. He's a surfer living in Orange County, originally from Brighton, UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Sure, that's experience, isn't it?
And basically him, R2R3 Locky Nut, and Mr. BHB Bruce, they're our roundtable guys.
Ah, okay.
Bumblebest is asking if you still play.
No, actually, that was one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
Give me a moment. It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life.
Yep.
Was stop playing. And I've been diagnosed with what I have the symptoms of Parkinson's, and I have very shaky hands, and so it's very difficult to play. I dearly love to play, but it's been a few years now, and I apologize for being a bit emotional, but
no, the guys.
That's the way it was.
Oh, they get it. They get it.
I did love to play, and I loved it. You know, the places I did manage to play, and some well-known people, and not some
people
very well-known people.
The best players that you never heard of, and a few that you have,
and yeah, quite a few that that you have.
Mom says you do play with Sam.
I do play with my granddaughter. Yeah, sometimes, but she's not very good at it. So
not yet.
It's not. She's learning, but yeah, she's catching on.
And Caleb saying he mentioned the captain's nickname. Just before I forget, I was telling Dad before we went on that Mike, we were talking earlier today, and his wife is calling him the captain now. So I'm sorry, I even brought it up, folks.
All right.
And let's see. JJ has a jam. Says you're an effing star. Nice. Showman. Yeah, I didn't give Showman a shout out earlier. He's in the Naples, Florida, I believe.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Same age as you. Still collecting. He's getting back into playing more again himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
well, all my gear, everything that I own, belongs to this guy now.
And that's what he just said too.
I handed it down to him, and it found a good home.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
He's much better than I ever was. If you had to know, I've heard him play, and I never claimed to be a great guitar player. I did claim to fake it incredibly well.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to fool them one gig at a time.
I tried to learn how to read music at one time, but it didn't work out very well. So I end up, the thing is when you don't read music, you end up playing all kinds of different instruments on your guitar.
Yep.
Filling in, you know, if you're familiar with the orchestras and arrangements and whatnot, and if the saxophone or the piano or something puts in a particular little few notes or something like that, when you're playing guitar, you tend to fill in those missing parts if you can. Especially, I've never never really enjoyed being a front man. But I really did enjoy being a side man and making the front person sound and look good.
Mm-hmm.
That was
and that's the role I took on when I got
that was
into
a job
gigging.
I undertook, and fortunately I became known for my harmony singing, and so I was, you know, hired as a backup singer fairly often, and and backup musician, and
oh,
the last year that I did play regularly, I think we did 42 jobs that year, and
most of those were multi-night jobs, weren't they?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Not too many one-nighters at that time, and that was back in the 80s, I believe. The late 80s. What caused me at that time, I was president of the musicians local AF of M, and we went into the restaurant business. My wife and I, family, and we opened a restaurant. I just didn't have time to play, and that's what made it so tough. Is I had to say no. I'm sorry, but
and the more you said no, the more the phone started ringing.
Well, the phone, yeah. Fortunately, that was nice of people, but I asked everybody that I knew not to ask me because it was very difficult for me to stop playing.
We have Not Ready to Make Nice 1 in there. That's cousin Siobhan.
Hi, cousin Siobhan. Actually, it's niece Siobhan for me.
Well, I'm introducing her as I know
your
her.
Cousin. Yeah.
We got all kinds of family. And let's see here. I saw a real cool guitar yesterday. It was a Fender double neck guitar. 2 necks were Strat necks. Zach Thong says. Yes. Oh, Jesus. Oh, the Stampeders frontman.
Okay.
Still owns one. He still uses it all the
time.
I
always found that they were too heavy.
Yeah.
The 67 is a very light guitar, and I used to wear it high, and I never really cared for heavy guitars like, I'd say, a Les Paul. Most of those were fairly heavy, and although I played one from time to time, I didn't find it all that comfortable.
And I know I'm missing some of the chat, folks. So if you have a question or something, just say it again.
I'd have to have my face in the screen.
Well, JC Smith says we got a new co-host for future shows. Please be a regular on here. Loving the story.
Yeah, I'm retired, you know, so I don't have a life, you know, anymore. It's sad. I'll take your sympathy if you want to shovel it out. Yeah, you know, I've never been shy about talking, but I do get emotional.
And people wonder where I get it from.
Well, yeah.
There you go, folks.
That's it.
Yes. Showman Blue says the only Les Paul I have are a Les Paul Custom Light. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yes. See, NASCAR Canuck says you just work at Naps.
I do that very well, actually. I have become an expert.
Yeah. He's one to talk.
An expert at napping, yeah.
Yeah, right. He's about intermittently awake.
His father was my brother, and I knew him well. My whole family is very good at napping, actually. We have no trouble sleeping at all. None whatsoever. What we do have a problem is working. We're not big fans of work. No, you know what I'm saying? And being a musician, that one of the things that always bothered me is that I always intended to open a school for roadies, you know, and not pay them, but give them an amazing amount of experience, you know, in carrying and setting up of equipment, because that's something that I was less than desirable with me. And so when oft times when I thought about going back playing again, that was one of the things that deterred me, was the fact that I'd have to, in the middle of January or something, and it's 8 million below zero outside and snowing, and I'm loading a truck, you know, or unloading a truck, and and that always bothered me. So
let's see here. Just going to go through a few of the comments. That would be awesome to see you on here again, Mr. Coombs. JJ's House of Jam says.
My friends call me Dave. Some people don't call me at all.
Mom says she still likes the D28 best.
Yeah, we didn't talk about acoustics at all.
We can bring that. We can do a little show and tell on that.
Yeah.
And then I saw, yes, a question for you.
Sure.
What about a Strat, Mr. Coombs? What's your opinion on them? Man, they're so polite tonight.
I love Stratocasters. When I was a kid, you know, I did get to play other people's Strats, as well as Jaguars, and I really enjoyed them. But the price for me being financially the idea of owning one was pretty much out of sight. Ben's getting out my old. So I'll just continue on. Yeah, but I do appreciate Strats and the bigger Fender guitars, and the sound that you could get them was always desirable to me. Yeah, here's this is a 72 28 that I bought new in 72. And I have my wife to thank for financing that. I bought it at a store in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, called the High Note.
We got notes here, folks.
I don't know if they're still in business or not, but my day off was there's a sticker on that guitar from 1976.
I don't know. Yep. Oh, there we go. Just look at the logo of that store logo, folks. It's too cool.
Maggie and I, my wife, worked at the Mariposa Folk Festival, Music Festival.
There it is.
For many years. And so a little story on that. My day off was Tuesday. I was a service manager in an auto center. I'm a car guy. Did I mention that?
No.
Oh, okay. I've always been I've been a car guy longer than I've been a musician. I fell in love with the automobile when I was 5 years old, and I'm still in love with the automobile. Anyway,
they're loving the Martin.
Back to this. My day off was Tuesday. I went out to this music store, and I was thinking about buying a D28, and because I wanted a good quality acoustic, and
you can't go wrong.
And I'd been downtown Toronto to a music store there, and I tried two guitars out, a D28 and Ovation, a Glenn Campbell Ovation.
Why?
I don't know. Well, as soon as I held the Ovation, I had never held one before, and I damn near dropped it on the floor. You couldn't hang on to these things. So I went back. I put it back on the rack, and I put the demo Martin back on the rack, and I said to the salesman, "How much do you want for this D28?" And he said $500. And I said, "Great. Do you have a business card? And I'll let you know." So I took his card, and a while later on my day off, I went to the High Note, and there was a new this one actually was sitting on a rack, and I should mention that right now I cut my hair twice a year, and I just cut it on Thursday, and I'm not too happy about it, but that's life.
Runs in the family.
Anyway, so here I am, and it used to be black. My natural, I dye it white. Anyway. So here I am at this music store, and the guy said, I said, "Do you mind if I try out this 28?" And he was at the other end of the store talking to a customer at the counter. He said, "Be very careful." And I said, "Sure." And so I took it down, and I played it, and it played well. So I put it back on the rack, and I walked over to the counter, and the customer had left. And I said, how much for the 28? And he said, $850. And I said, well, I can get one downtown for $500. He said, no, you can't. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't. And he said, I don't believe you. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I got the salesman's business card here. Why don't we give him a call? He said, I'll dial the number and pick up the extension phone and you talk to him. And if he says he'll sell you a D28 for $500, I'll match the price. And so he did. And I did. And we did. And so I ended up buying a brand new D28 for $100 for the what is case. A Samsonite type flight case.
Yeah.
And so give him the money and away I went, you know, and I've had it ever since. Now, one time it was sitting on the stand. This is many years ago. I think my daughter was what, 2?
No.
Three,
yeah,
4,
3 or 4 years
maybe.
old, maybe. Yeah.
Anyway, I was babysitting, and she had.
Well, you were parenting.
Yeah,
it's your kid. You're not babysitting.
She
spoken like a true musician.
She bumped into the guitar and
wait a minute. Hang on. Why did R2 just time out Mom for 5 minutes? What did Mom say? R2, was that a mistake? Did you time out my mother on purpose?
That's all right. She was probably barking about how she deserved everything.
Oh, okay. Well,
anyway, and she does.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So anyway,
it was on a stand.
Here it was on a stand, and my daughter knocked it over and hit the edge of a table and put a crack in it. It actually broke part of the brace inside off, a splinter. Yep. And so that was about the most upset I'd ever been at either one of my kids at any given time.
I still remember it only because you were calm.
My wife.
I
phoned my wife.
Yeah.
She was at work, and I said, "You better come home because I think I might kill my daughter." And she said, "What happened?" And I told her about the guitar and whatnot. And so by that time, I'd calmed down substantially. Amanda was crying somewhat.
Yeah, because I remember
she was upset because I was upset and mad at her and whatnot. So I calmed down and I said, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine." And I put this sticker on covering the hole in the guitar, and there it remains today. And that would have been somewhere in
82, 81,
somewhere
82
in
range.
there.
Yeah, because I remember after it happened, because that was in the next room. I was out in the living room, and you just came out and said, "Take your sister upstairs." You were totally calm to me. Take her upstairs. I need to make a phone call. I'm like, well, that seems odd, but sure.
Indeed. So that's the story of the D28 and how I come to have one.
R2R3 says, "Sorry, brother, mistake." And then now he's blaming that his kids are messing with his phone. And he's apologizing to Mom.
Do not worry about it.
Yeah.
These things happen.
And everyone's burning R2 that he's fired as a moderator.
No, he's all right. Do not worry about it.
That's right. Yes. Showman Blues, he just put up a video yesterday. He picked up 1985 Strat variant.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact model, but it was out of one of the early ones out of their custom shop in Japan.
Okay.
Humbucker, 2 single coil, weird trem system with no access from the back of the guitar. You actually fine-tune the springs through a hole next to the strap button on the end. Oh, it's weird. Yeah, but really cool. And he picked up the thing. Doesn't even have he said there's a couple swirls on the pickguard, and that's it.
Really?
Like the thing is just mint.
Cool.
Yes, a contemporary. There we go. Contemporary Strat. And Fender Guru asks, "Is she still your daughter?" Yes. Yes.
Indeed. So those basically were the 2 instruments that I like to play, the D28.
And you may have noticed, too, there was a Shaler pickup in the sound hole in it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pickups have come a long way in 30
I never
years.
used that pickup. you know,
I think you tried once or twice.
Maybe,
but the cord. Remember, the cord comes right off, and as soon as you moved up to the mic, you'd step on the cord and unplug it.
I don't. I just thought I might need it sometime. Actually, there was a time when I taped a microphone to the guitar.
Yeah.
A small, very tiny clip-on mic. Anyway,
Showman Blues wanted me to tell you he's got a Fender Tele with a rosewood neck and fretboard.
Yeah, you've got a rosewood neck on that.
No, just rosewood fretboard.
Or fretboard.
The whole neck.
He has the whole neck, which is
done in rosewood.
I don't know. You know, like
the Fender just
my experience with rosewood is limited? No different than, you know, it is limited. Yeah, I mean, I have played guitars, but I've never noticed any appreciable difference. Although, you know, like I was just interested when I played, I was interested in putting out a sound, you know, and whatever made it easier to get the sound that I was looking for, or that my boss was looking for, the band leader or whoever, then that was fine, you know. But I just found what I had was adequate, you know. It was just. But that D28 has been used in the studio. I was in the studio recording, and it was a particularly fast number. It was kind of like bluegrass, and I was handed a tack.
Takamine,
yeah. Because you could
available
plug
at
it
Arden's Music,
and easy, all right, easy to. Yeah, they're not going to like this one though. Easy to you know to monitor, you know, because you plug it in and you could adjust everything, and of course the 28 is just the guitar, and you got to mic it. So I lay down a few tracks with the tack, and I said I looked.
We're gonna have another guest momentarily.
My mother, your mother.
Yeah, not your mother. I better not be your mother.
Hello, Ma.
What's up, Ma?
What's up?
I can't get on still.
Okay. Well,
it was a 5-minute timeout. Apparently,
you worked at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can someone please time out my mother? She would like to make a comment. She has to do it in person now.
There she is.
There she is. Say hi.
Hi. This is Maggie. If you don't know her,
twins on there.
Yeah, we look alike.
Yeah. Genetics.
Yeah.
DNA
happens.
and such.
I didn't get any of this, eh?
No, apparently not. Too bad.
So the tack, I wasn't happy.
All right, so you heard it, R2.
I wasn't happy with the tack, so I said to the engineer, I think
Bruce, help me, bro.
I want to try the 28, and the 28 worked the ringing of the strings.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. If you're ever in the studio, have a decent guitar, and the 28 is just a standby, you know, that
it's the standard.
Works on everything, and and so that was one experience with the 28. I didn't play acoustic guitar very often on stage unless I was doing a folky thing, you know, a single or a duo, you know. But most often when I was working as a musician, I played the Telecaster or something similar.
Let's see here. We got a bunch of people saying hi to Mom, which is awesome. And they love her too. And then Doug says if it was our grandmother, you guys wouldn't have got a word in edgewise. Where do you think he got it from that I got it from?
You're talking about my mother.
Yes.
I knew my mother fairly well, and I knew how to control her. That was one of the things, because she did love to hear me talk. She did, and I was the youngest of 9 kids, and so she kind of babied me in a sense, you know, and of course when I was a kid, by the time I was born, 3 of those kids had moved out already.
Mom's got a new subscriber. Bruce subscribed to Mom.
All right.
Because he's like, You should be good now. We got Steve Andersen coming in from Victoria, BC. Says 19 thumbs up for me. That means we got 19 thumbs ups. We got 19 people watching.
Well, there you are.
Wow. Awesome. How many shows have you played?
Me?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, like I said, the last year I played on a relatively regular basis. I played 42 gigs out of 52 weeks, you know.
And that was more than one show.
And they were like multi-night, usually up to 7.
Well, see, the way I'm gigging these days, the fact that when you say 42, they think, okay, like I do 42 one-offs.
No, it wasn't 42 days.
No, it's usually 42 with 2 to 3 days.
3 nights, and sometimes, quite often, we'd play seven nights in a Saturday afternoon, or 6 nights in a Saturday afternoon matinee. We played some unusual gigs. One place, I'll tell you, we played at a place up north one time. And in the old days, hotels used to have 2 rooms, separate rooms. One was for men only, and the other one was for mixed.
Yeah.
Okay. And this particular old hotel, the stage was in a hallway between the 2 big rooms. And there was mirrors on the other side of the stage.
Yep.
So essentially, you played to yourself. The whole, the band performed for it, and the speakers, the mains were turned so that each room could hear the sound. Another place we played in, there was a wall right dead center. There was a walkway in front of the stage, and right opposite was a wall. So you're looking at the end of a wall. So half the band was in one room and the other half was in another room entirely. And we played there fairly often, and we used to switch sides just so we get to know the people in the other room, you know. And
R2 chimes in, Ben's mom unsubbed me. And then looks like she's got a few more subscribers now. Growing up. So every time she makes an appearance, you see, she's cultivating this grassroots effort.
So, like the total number of gigs, wow, I don't know.
Well over 1,000, I would think.
I don't know. I just can't comprehend. My first gig was in 1963. That was when the first gig that I had. And it kind of went on from there. Used to do a lot of private parties and weddings and stuff like that, you know. One time, I'll tell you, back in about 69, a guy who owned a manufacturing plant hired me as a single. It was his daughter's 16th birthday. And he was a wealthy guy, and he lived out in the country. I don't know where, because he sent a car to pick me up with my gear and took me out to his estate and a long driveway up to the house. But he had a bonfire going in the middle of, I don't know how long that driveway was, but it was in a field. And he had a bonfire going, everybody sitting around a bonfire. And I said, where do you want me to set up? He said, out at the fire. And I said, that's got to be 200 feet from your house. Do you have power out there? He said, I got an extension cord. And so I did. I set up around the bonfire and did this gig. I think I got paid $25 for that gig. And after everybody, it got a little chilly, so they moved. He had about a 6 or 7 car garage attached to his house, and he moved me in there and set up. And he had all kinds of food and everything. And then after the gig, he had a driver drive me back home. I have no idea where that was. And I don't remember the guy's name or anything, but I used the $25, that's for sure. And his daughter enjoyed the music of, just a variety of, he had a lot of, not too many of her friends there, but he had a lot of business associates there, So it turned out to be a pretty decent gig, and they didn't know too much about long-haired hippie people anyway, which I was at the time.
Uh-oh. No. JC Smith says, everyone sub Maggie. Maybe she will give us Ben stories. No. We don't need Mom vlogging talking about me.
I'll tell you something. This guy is the greatest guy you ever want to know.
I'm just me.
They
know it. I'm just me. And R2 says his wife is even mad at him for timing out Mom.
Yeah.
And then the gang are saying they want to see an apology video. Done.
Sure.
Let's see. Mom's laughing. Bruce says during the round table you'll get to apologize live to Mom.
Yeah.
And Bruce says he loves me. Okay. Thanks, man. I love you too, brother. Like we talk almost every day.
Yeah. So what do we want to talk about? Some people?
Yeah. Let's see.
You want to talk about people?
Oh, that's actually quite sweet, Doug. You got that right, Uncle Dave. There we go. So, yeah, what do you guys want to hear about?
I don't know.
Questions, comments?
The time you got kicked out of your bedroom by C.W. Gatlin?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that last night.
Here's a story that you might be interested in.
Yeah, welcome to my childhood,
if you know the rock and roll, rockabilly, either one Hall of Fame, then you're familiar with the name Ronnie Hawkins. Ronnie is a rockabilly rock and roll musician that started in the 50s and later on moved to Canada, which is another story entirely. People say that he came to Canada first from Arkansas, and with his one of his closest friends, Levon Helm, who was the drummer in the band called the Band, and worked with Dylan and whatnot. Lived across in New York State there for many years and around Woodstock, and anyway, Ronnie. He came to Canada by way of a guy you may have heard, Conway Twitty. Conway Twitty, who is a well-known musician, country, and started out in rockabilly. And he and Ronnie were friends when they were young. And he came up to live in Canada, Conway did, in Hamilton, just outside of Toronto.
See, it all ties together, Fender Guru, Hamilton.
And so he brought Ronnie. He talked to Ronnie and he said, "You got to come up to Canada. This is the promised land, son." And so Ronnie did. He came up, and then he brought Levon up from Arkansas. Anyway, one of their friends from back in West Helena at the time, Arkansas, they just call it Helena now, was C.W. Gatlin. He was a bit younger than they were, but he was a good friend anyway, and the guitar player. And C.W. is a member of the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, if you want to check it out.
Great player, guys.
A great player.
Wow.
Great guy. Yep. Became a great friend.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ronnie was putting a band together right here down the street from where we live. Ronnie's method of putting a band together was to go to a hotel or a motel that had entertainment, and he said, "We'll play here for nothing for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks if you'll give us accommodations and food." And so that way he gathered his band members together or potential band members, and they practiced.
And let's be honest, even Ronnie running down musicians for a band is going to be some good barroom entertainment.
Well, he oh yeah, absolutely.
Because he would just put you through the paces.
Oh yeah,
we're going to start at the top, boys, and
this is
try to keep up.
You know the gig, right? So anyway, Ronnie's putting a band together, and he needed a guitar player, so he phoned C.W. Gatlin back in Helena, Arkansas, and C.W. came on up to Trenton here, and he stayed at the motel. Well, C.W. had a mind that he wanted to have his own career and not necessarily back Ronnie, so they didn't. They didn't gel as far as the band was concerned. So that was fine. So I heard about C.W. staying at the motel after Ronnie had left. And so I went over there and I knocked on the door. And it was Maggie, my wife, that told me that he was there. And so I knocked on the door and he came to the door and I said, "You're C.W. Gatlin?" And he said, "Yes, sir." and I introduced myself and said, "Why don't you come? Are you staying here for any particular length of time?" He said, "No." He said, "I'm going back to Arkansas, I think." I said, "You want to come over to my house for dinner?" So he came over, and after talking a bit, I said, "Why don't you stay here?" And we jammed a bit, and that night after we had dinner and we played a bit, and he had a Telecaster.
Yep.
And
a Blackguard
I got
telly.
yeah. I got out the telly and we played, and so I'm playing back up to him, and I'm playing Memphis style, 2-string, which I had adapted to 3-string.
Right.
But so after we played, he said, "Where did you learn that?" And I said, "Where did I learn what?" And he said, "Where did you learn to play Memphis style like that?" And I said, "Well, that's the way it was. That's the way it's supposed to be. Like I never thought of playing it another way." And so he said, "I think we're going to get along just fine." And so he said, "You want to put a band together?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, we could play. We could." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you, I know a guy back in Helena by the name of Alan Good, and he was a DJ on the radio back in Arkansas. And he said I could go down there and bring him back, and we could. Do you know any drummers?" And I said, "Yeah, I know a few drummers." And so anyway, that's what we did. Alan came up, and they lived and Ben got kicked out of his bed. You see, because they needed to. Yeah, and so Alan slept on the couch in the living room.
Yeah.
And CW had Ben's bed, and so they lived here for a while, and we started putting a band together.
And I thought this was normal, guys, growing up.
Well, it was.
Yeah, that's normal to me.
Because that's what you do, And
I'm going to give a quick shout out. We got Dave Byron tuning in. He's from North Fort Myers, I believe, Southwest Florida.
Yes.
That guy he gigs almost every night.
All right.
Yeah. Rockin' Dave Byron. So you're saying, yeah. So I lost my room. I had to move in with my
So we
2
had
or
this
3-year-old sister.
We had this gig going, and Ronnie, he just lives an hour or so north of me here, and in a place called Lakefield. I don't know if he's still there because he was selling the farm. Ronnie's got to be, I think he was born around 38. He's got to be 80 years old now. Yeah. And he's had some health issues. And
I think he might have moved more into the Peterborough area proper now.
So anyway, Ronnie lived north of me, and we run into each other, from time to time over the years. But the CW and I and Alan started to put a band together, and we were shopping for a drummer. In the meantime, a phone call comes, and it says from this booking manager, it says, "We got a gig on the East Coast in New Brunswick." New Brunswick, if buddy from Halifax would know. It was a big room. I think it was in Moncton. There's a big country bar like Gillies,
right?
Was in Texas. And
for those that don't know, you're looking at least 500-600 plus.
Well, maybe I don't know how many.
Maybe more than that.
It was a week-long gig for 3 weeks booked into this room, and there was a Johnny Cash look-alike, sound-alike guy from Vermont. And he needed a band, and all you played was Johnny Cash music.
Oh, yay.
These guys are from Arkansas. If you can't play Johnny Cash, you can't play. It's that simple, I mean, CW was a friend of Johnny Cash and the Cash family, and still is friends with the family. But anyway, so this call comes in, and the guy's I need a backup band. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I had a business that I couldn't just walk away from at the time, and a retail store business. And so I said, you guys go ahead down to Vermont and put this deal together, and if I can get rid of the business or get somebody to take care of it, I'll join you in Vermont. And we go do the gig over in New Brunswick. And then it was more gigs apparently in the U.S., like New York City and New York State. So anyway, so off they went. And the next thing I hear is that there's a whole show being put together with this guy doing the Johnny Cash show. They had Willie Peters, who was originally from Ohio, and I think he was in Cocoa Beach, Florida at the time. And he did a Willie Nelson show, and they had a Dolly Parton girl from out Oklahoma way. They had Lance, a guy from L.A. that did a Kenny Rogers act, and Alan Good was doing a Marty Robbins thing, you know. And so they put this show together, and
somebody has to hear it, so I'm
okay.
quietly tuning while you're talking.
Yeah. So anyway, they went off and did this show, and I never did get to play with them again. CW and I we went out one night, he and I, to a local bar, and there was a guy playing a single act. And so we're sitting there, and during a break, he came and sat with us. And we're talking about playing and his equipment and stuff. He said, "You want to get up and do a couple of songs?" So I said, "Well, CW can play your guitar, but I'll just run up the street and grab my 28, which I did. Came back, and it's just like 2-3 minutes down the street, this bar, and so we played a couple songs together, and said, "Well, thanks very much." The room had a good crowd, and they liked it and appreciated it.
You good to go for a while yet?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
Still talking.
Okay. Michael Smith just updated. Yeah, he's got a bunch of work stuff going on. He's trying like crazy to get in here. He apologizes to you directly.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's what I told him.
Yeah. Anyway, so CW and I did a couple of songs, and thanks very much. And now here's so-and-so, I can't remember the guy's name, come back up on stage, and the guy stood up and he said, "I'm not going back on after you guys. You can just stay there." So we did. We finished off the set, and it was a good time. And that was really the only time that CW and I played
in front of an audience.
Out in front of an audience other than family and friends and so on. But the thing is we always meant to get back together again. One time in the 90s, I get a call from...
I hinted on that last night, too.
I get a call from Nashville, and it's CW on the line. He said, "Listen, I got a problem." And I said, "What's your problem?" He said, "I'm in Nashville in the studio, and I got a problem." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "I hooked up with Moon Records out of Memphis." You heard of Moon Records? It's kind of like Sun Records, but down the street, another label. And they bought a couple of songs, and they sent me up to Nashville, and they hired a bunch of studio musicians. He said, "But they don't know, yeah." Like he said, it's fine. They're great musicians. They can play anything, but they don't have the heart, like they don't have, you have to feel, if you play rockabilly or, anything close to it, you have to really feel that rhythm, And he said, "I need you to come down to Nashville right away." And I said, "Well, we were in the restaurant business." And I said, "I can't walk away from my business. We're busy all the time." And he said, "Well, yeah, but they don't know what I want. You know what I want." So I said, "I'm sorry, my friend. I can't." Anyway, that was a story about CW and the call from Nashville. And he did record the record. I don't know whatever happened to it. I never, I don't ever recall asking him about it. But a few years ago, I did talk to him on the phone. And, it was one of those situations where every time we talked on the phone, it was just picking up the conversation from where it left off, the last conversation 5 or 10 years ago. Anyway, so I'm talking to him, and he said, I've got an album. I've put together a compilation album. And I said, really? And I said, what's on? He said, a little bit of everything. He said, stuff that at the time he was working with a band. What was the name of that band with? It was a great band. I'm telling you, he had Johnny Cash's drummer.
Right.
W.S. Holland, who had played for 40 years with Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And that was the drummer in this band. And it was Rockabilly Masters. That was the name of the band, the Rockabilly Masters. Look it up on YouTube. Anyway, and they'd done some studio work, and they were out touring and whatnot. And it was an all-star band, I'll tell you. And so he said, I've got this album, and they recorded at Sun Studio in Memphis.
I'm just going to point out something real quick, because
Sure.
she brought it up. Mom just said, even though I've heard these stories and lived them, this is great entertainment. But we get in trouble all the time for having these exact conversations. And well, you boys, you always talk about this stuff. Yeah. And so,
anyway, he said, I got this album. I'll send you a copy. He said, it's not been processed or anything, but he said, I can send you a copy of it. I said, sure. He said, I'll tell you what, Dave. He said, if you want it, I'll give you the rights to Canada and Europe. If you want to promote it, we'll put it together and have it packaged, and you can do whatever you want with it. And I said, well, send it to me, and the CD, and I'll listen to it and see what I think. And it was a damn fine album. It was all right for a rough copy.
And we got Romeo Delight 90 just jumped in, says, hey, and happy Father's Day.
No, thank you.
And JC Smith says, you definitely got to pimp out the replay of this video to all the channels and groups. Well, feel free to share away. They're saying this is gold. This is gold. And I don't know who it was. I forgot who was asking. They wanted to hear the D28.
That's standard tuning.
Yeah, it is, in fact.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that's even going to come through, because it's going to sound like it's underwater, probably compressing. So there you go, is a little taste of it. And the strings are 4 or 5 years old. So. Nothing rings like a D28.
Yeah, the ringing of the strings.
Yeah, and it's finally turning that nice dark amber.
It is, yeah.
It's finally curing. Sounds better than you might think.
I mean, I have not played a guitar in years, I'm telling you. But sorry.
Oh, it's great.
My hands, as I said, I've been diagnosed with familial tremors. Familial tremors is the diagnosis. It's kind of like Parkinson's, a lighter version thereof. I do have the symptoms of Parkinson's, but my hands, it's hard to control them. And so it doesn't allow me. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, you're getting compliments.
It's been years since I actually. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
They're pretty soft.
I was going to say, that's
Check it out.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And old strings, I can see the tarnish on the string.
They are, yes, indeed. But I'll tell you, Ben was talking about the other day about playing finger picking. And
it's a lost art. Dave Byron knows finger picking's a lost art, isn't it, Dave?
Back in the 70s, the early 70s, well, maybe the mid 70s, early 70s, mid 70s.
Getting savant.
Talk about a finger picker, you know, that I enjoyed, and we spent some time together, was John Prine. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a singer-songwriter.
Oh, I'm sure there's got to be.
Out of
You guys,
Chicago.
if you don't know who John Prine is,
Anyway, yeah.
own up. There's your homework. And Dave Byron says, yeah, it's a lost art of the finger picking.
And I did do a lot of finger picking, you know, in the day. And there's another guy just come to mind out of Chicago by the name of Steve Goodman.
I thought that's where you're going before you mentioned John Prine.
If you don't know Steve Goodman, then check him out.
I thought you were going to curse there for if you don't know. And you know what? Sadly, not a lot of people do know who it is, but they really know his big
Stevie
hit.
was only about 38 when he died.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great guy.
JC Smith says, yes, John Prine. Man, we're talking to JC tonight. Everybody that you mentioned,
fellow,
Ronnie Hawkins, John Prine.
We were at a festival in Toronto, Maggie and I, and working a festival, and I'm in the lobby of this hotel. This festival had like 900 performers and staff, okay, of which my wife Maggie and I were two of the staff at that time, although we did jam a lot with. Anyway, this guy comes up and he's playing a little Martin guitar.
Yep.
And he was pretty jovial little guy, you know. Steve, you didn't know unless somebody told you that he had leukemia and was in remission. Yep. Anyway, he comes up and he has this guitar and he says to me, he said, "Hi, I'm Steve Goodman. You want to jam?" And so I got to know Steve, and he was a great guy and a super friend of John's. They wrote songs, performed her, and Steve had a huge heart, absolutely huge.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to go and see him in concert from time to time, and when he would come to Toronto, and then we would have a chance to visit.
There we go. Dave Byron says, though, Dave's about, I think he's about 10, 12 years older than me. He says, used to play at Holstein's, Steve Goodman and John Prine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from the Chicago area, Dave.
Right.
Yeah, he's retired to Florida now, but he's
a couple of great guys, you know.
Yeah. And John Prine, actually, didn't he just bring out an album in the last year?
He has a new album out, right? Yeah. He does.
Yeah, which is great. And did he not?
Actually, the first John Prine album we ever owned was a studio copy that was given to us by John Prine.
Yeah. If you don't know what a studio copy is, folks,
it's the one that went out to the radio station.
It wouldn't have all the copyrights necessarily, all the full printing.
It was just the album.
Oh, just the album, with a plain sleeve.
It didn't have a sleeve or anything like that, you know.
Yeah, essentially a demo in many ways.
I think we still have that
somewhere.
Anyway, yeah, great guys, and we used to get all of their albums, and so now I listen to them on YouTube.
Yep.
Hello.
And did Steve Goodman, did he not write City of New Orleans?
He did.
See, that's where, I was going to say, you may not know the name, but you know the song. And he was smart when he took that money and bought a place in Malibu. And
he told me, he said that record paid for my house in Malibu. Willie Nelson recorded that song as a benefit for Steve Goodman.
Yep. Well, for the family, wasn't as much as, because it was near the end, right? Because I'm trying to think, Prior to that, Arlo had done a cover of it.
Arlo
obviously.
Guthrie recorded it. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it was,
Quite a few people did. Come to
yes,
think of it.
indeed.
Janis Joplin.
She may. I don't know.
Yeah.
However,
Mom's more the Joplin fan.
Steve Goodman's story. We were at the folk festival one time, and he did a concert. Had a great crowd at this concert, and he came off stage, and we're walking. It was on an island, and we had to get a boat to go back to the mainland, and we're walking across through this park, and a bunch of people came around and gathered around and said how much they liked the concert. And one young woman, she spoke up and she said, "Steve, you didn't."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "You didn't do this particular song." I think it was Ballad of Penny Evans or something like that.
Mm.
And he put his guitar case down and did the song right there.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. I get emotional.
Quite all right. We got Adam EVH tuning in from Niagara Falls area.
Anyway, one of the people that was in that crowd gathered around was a young mid-teens, maybe 14, 15 years old. And his name was Colin Linden. If you don't know Colin Linden, look him up. Today,
Colin's pretty much I don't know. Like,
Colin is a record producer and legendary blues musician.
Yeah.
Now, here's a kid that when he was a teenager went south. He was such a blues fan that he would go south and look up all of these old blues musicians and go and stay with them and learn from them. Yeah. And so now...
Well, I remember he started poking his head around at the festival circuit at like 12 years old and stuff.
A lot of people know him as Blackie, but his name is Colin Linden. Look him up. And he still plays backup, but he's a producer and a writer and somewhat legendary blues guy out of Toronto. Actually, he's from north of Toronto originally, but
I just got to scroll up here while the chat's flying.
He was standing there when Steve stopped and did this song for this young girl and the crowd that was gathered around.
Wow, we got a ton of questions here. All right, so let's see, Dry Heat 480 says, didn't Steve Goodman write "You Never Call Me by My Name"?
That's correct. David Allan Coe recorded that
David
song
Allan Coe
as well. But yeah, Steve, "You Never Even Call Me by My Name." And,
that's a beautiful song.
Yeah, you never even call me darling, darling.
Let's see. Well,
great line.
Here's an interesting question for you. What does Mr. Coombs think of the new digital age and the lack of album sales and gigs?
Tell you something about the music business. It's business. Forget about the music. The music never was all that important if you're in the music business. If you don't know the business, then you might as well just entertain your family or parties or whatever you want to do.
Sound familiar, Dave Byron? Dave Byron went live yesterday and he was talking about always have a plan B.
I preached about this for decades upon decades to young musicians and old musicians and so on. And almost every day you talk about even the top musicians, top vocalists, whatever, being ripped off by management or lawyers or agents. And it's because they don't know the business. You have to educate yourself in the business side of the music business. It's the most important thing there is. And the reason being is that there used to be a lot of record labels at one time that got played on the air. And, just so many. They all got bought up. And now we have Sony you know, controlling probably most of the record business.
It's about half and half between Sony and
we have
Universal.
Radio stations that are automated,
which are all owned by a chain,
and
you don't have the independent stations.
So
anymore.
we don't have so much and so, you know, like, to me, and back in the day, we didn't have, you know, all the electronics.
No.
That you know, you were lucky if you had an amplifier that you could plug in.
Yeah.
And if you wanted some kind of distortion, you kick the amp with the reverb turned up a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we didn't have pedals, you know, with the we just didn't have it. If you had to if you needed to make a particular sound, who are we talking about today?
Keith?
No, that played with Ronnie.
Oh, come on.
Anyway,
Roy
Buchanan. Roy.
I told Fender Guru last
night. I got to tell you the story about Roy Buchanan and Ronnie Hawkins. Anyway, yeah, he uses the guitar and he uses the controls on the guitar to create, or he did, to create particular sounds. At any rate, so the digital age, it's good in a way if you want to clean things up, but when you're playing out on stage, you know, in a crowded room and there's lots of noise and whatnot, I tell you, the clear sound doesn't mean anything. And if you're doing the single act, the more noise you got, the easier it is to play. And so, you know, the new age of music, you better know your business. Or you know, today it's a case of, and it happened in the early 60s when with guys like Dick Clark, who would take young kids, you know, Frankie Avalon and Fabian and Bobby and Bobby this
all the
guy.
Bobbies,
and they would, these kids would show up with a half-ton truckload of cash, and they'd say, "Okay, kid, come on in, and we'll put you in the studio,
yep,
and we're going to record you, and we're going to make you a star, and we're going to put you on the TV." Isn't that great? And Daddy's going to pay for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the money runs out, you better have established yourself. And we're going to put you all together in a show.
Yep.
And you're going to get up on stage at this cavalcade of stars, and you're going to sing the 2 songs that you know. And after you've done those, you better get off, because now you're doing cover tunes because you only know 2 songs. And so
the 2 songs that were written for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually by Carole King or Neil Sedaka.
Yeah.
You know, anybody in New York.
Yeah. Or the Philadelphia, the Jewish guys in Philly. Yeah.
But at that time, I'll tell you something. Back in the 1970s, it cost $25,000 to have a hit record. That's what it's going to cost you, because that's where the, you know, to pay to get that, get
exposure,
a record on, no,
promotion.
To get a record on the charts.
Yeah.
If you're on the charts, I don't care if anybody's ever seen you.
That's true.
If you're on the charts, you're at the top. Then they're going to listen to it anyway.
Yep.
Because the radio stations playing top 40 are going to play your record. Doesn't matter how good you are or whatever. If you're on that list, you know, and that's what it cost at that time, 25 grand. A lot of people don't know about that. That's the business side, son. And so now I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I'll tell you, you have to kiss somebody's ass at Sony, that's for sure. And then you're going to be an overnight sensation. I'm telling you. And
Adam EVH, who has a podcast himself, they have our Metal Stage podcast, Tim Sinner and Jim Guidry.
Yeah.
He says, Mr. Coombs for Prime Minister. Yeah, and I'm just thinking, no filter. You could do our Metal Stage, because they don't care. Like, no holds bar. You know, you can curse, you can talk about anything, and
well,
no filtration.
Anyway,
just keeping it real.
That's
No wonder Adam loves you.
that's my small opinion about the music business today. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I can't for the life of me how the hell all these rap musicians, singers, vocalists. Well, I shouldn't say all these
MCs. They call themselves MCs.
Whatever you want to do, but how they become incredibly popular. I don't know who buys their stuff, but
each other.
I'm happy that they do, and
yeah.
I'm glad that people are having success in the music business. The sad part of it is that there are an awful lot of really good musicians out there. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of them worldwide, that are incredible musicians, but they never going to get heard by the masses.
We got Fender Guru says we're just waiting for a new Beatles or new Stones. We'll see. Let's see. JC Smith says we need Papa Dave to write a channel tune that members can play a part on and contrip a contest.
Okay.
So yeah, I kind of send the session back and forth, and people add tracks.
Back in the day, we would get together and turn on a tape recorder, and you didn't play any cover tunes or anything old.
Yep.
Nothing that anybody's ever. In other words, you made it up as you went along, and lyrics and music. And after you play with musicians in a particular style or whatever for a length of time, you get to think alike.
Yeah.
Which you end up with 2 clues, one from each. Anyway, and so it becomes easy to create stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times on stage, somebody would come up and say, "Can you do a song by so-and-so?" And I would say, "I don't know one, but here's one that sounds like them."
Right.
And I'd make one up.
Yep.
Right there on the spot. And I'd say, "What do you think?" And, "Oh, yeah, that's great. Yep. Thank you very much."
We got a question from ET5150. Ben, did you and your father jam together with metal hard rock? No. Like, did you go over to his amp and dial up the gain? No. We have jammed, but man, honestly, we haven't jammed in well over 20 years.
Well,
because
I don't.
He got out of playing, and I wasn't that good at that. Like, I'd only been playing a few years.
And also, back in the 90s, I sliced my finger. I was cutting up some fish. No, I was opening a bag of fries.
Yes,
frozen fries, and I sliced with this fish cutting knife, and I sliced halfway through my finger. And I went, that's another story. I went to the hospital in a cab from our restaurant, and the emergency room staff was waiting for me at the door. And we'll try that at a hospital. Okay. They're waiting for me, and they took me right into emergency, and they called in a microsurgeon to sew up my finger. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have any nerve damage. And so I'm talking to the surgeon, and my hand is out there on the table, and there's a nurse behind her, and the surgeon's here, and she's sewing up my finger. And we're talking about, she said, "So you're in the restaurant?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm also a guitar player. And what I'd like to know is, do you think that this will heal so that I can still use my finger?" And she said, "Yeah, I think so. But and then she went, "Oops." And she turned, and the nurse said, "Oops." And I said, "Oops." And she said, "Yeah, I just pricked myself with the needle." The surgeon said to the nurse. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to find out if I have anything whatsoever wrong with my blood, because you're going to suck a whole bunch out of me, and you're going to run it through the lab, and you're going to test it for absolutely anything, because I'm a musician. And you know what musicians are like when it comes to things that contaminate. and we had been
Oh,
talking.
I'm sure there are several. If you notice some of the emojis of beer and what's supposed to be wind. Yeah, wind.
So anyway, here we are, and they sewed it up, and it for a long time, and still today, it's a little bit numb, but it was very sensitive. When I played and used this finger, my little finger, it would be like getting an electrical shock when I pushed on the, you know. So I found it very difficult to play so much after that.
And I would try to explain to my buddies who are a different generation of players, because we grew up with tablature or power chords, and I'd say, well, it's your pinky finger, and they're like, so I never use my pinky finger unless I'm doing like lead and shredding. I was like, well, I said, well, Dad actually plays real chords. Like, do you know what a minor seventh is? No, exactly.
Anyway, so that was the story of my when I cut my finger, and why I didn't play a whole lot after that.
Yeah,
on a regular basis.
By the time because I got into playing a lot for a number of years too, and then by the time I got back into it, well, literally, you probably hadn't picked up a guitar in the better part of 20 years.
Yeah,
so
for the most part, yeah.
And the stuff that I was playing when I had to ramp up to get back into gigging, I was playing some heavy stuff, and it's just oil and water. Like, there wasn't a lot of crossover. Now that I've got my rockabilly and my country chops going somewhat, we could, in theory. Adam EVH says, great show, and we'll watch it over from the start. Thanks for taking the time to share your stories, Mr. Coombs. And then Dave Byron says, Mr. Coombs, thanks for these stories, because people need to hear how it really is and really was.
My father was Mr. Coombs. My name is Dave. You can call me Dave, or you don't have to call me at all, or whatever makes you happy.
Byron says, Mrs. Coombs, you have a great, great family. God bless you. Well, thank you, Dave Byron.
At any rate,
so yeah, any you guys, anything you guys want to ask?
How are we doing? How about what's his name, Mike?
Mike,
is he on board yet?
No, he'll just start.
All right, we're going to carry on.
Here. Yeah.
So what are we talking about? What's his face played with Ronnie?
Roy Buchanan.
Roy Buchanan, well-known musician. Anyway, Roy Buchanan came up to Canada and played in the Hawks, which was Ronnie Hawkins' band.
Prior to the band being the Hawks.
And well,
somewhat.
No, they were always the Hawks.
Well, I know, but it wasn't the band, as in
no,
Robbie
not the band. Before the Hawks became the band.
Yeah, this is the original Hawks.
So, and he played bass for Ronnie. He needed some work, and
that's correct.
Ronnie didn't need.
See, people don't know these stories. They only hear the highlight reels of the careers, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, everybody let's put it this way: everybody started out in the bedroom or basement or garage or whatever, plunking away at a guitar and not knowing a hell of a lot. Everybody starts out the same, and if your parents had money, you took lessons.
Yep.
You know, otherwise you had to hang out with other guys that were learning, and you learned together, and eventually you know, depends on how but you spend a lot of time alone practicing. It doesn't matter who you are.
You got to.
If you're going to be good, there ain't no such thing as a natural. There's no such thing as talent. I'm not a believer in talent. I believe that if you practice and practice and practice, and you have your heart and soul into what you're doing, then you will succeed at being a musician. You know, but I don't believe in natural talent, you know.
See, I almost think like JC knows us, because he's like, get Dave to sing Maggie Says We Should, play a song, Ben.
Anyway, so, yeah, Roy Buchanan played with Ronnie.
Mom has a question.
Yeah.
Tell them about Mariposa Jams.
Oh, we had some great...
Now, as I recall, there was... several hotels used to house all the staff and musicians.
Originally.
But you guys usually had a conference room set up.
Well, no, we had the whole damn hotel.
Well, okay. But yeah, but there was a dedicated room as well, like not just the
every
bedrooms.
Hotel has a dining room,
or a conference room.
Or conference rooms or whatever. Or sometimes we just crowd into, I'll tell you something. just popped into my head. A great jam session.
Here we go.
We're in a hotel room.
Yep.
At the Executive Motor Hotel in Toronto.
Look it up, folks.
So it starts off with Steve Goodman and John Prine, myself, and Chick Roberts.
Oh, geez, okay, yeah.
Chick Roberts is an old folky musician from way back. I mean, he played at the last dinner, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at this picture of Jesus at the Last Supper, you look in the back, see the band. Chick Roberts was playing in that band, I swear. Anyway, so Chick Roberts and a couple other people. Oh, Tommy Makem.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Makem was he Scottish, I guess. Back folky type singer back in the 60s, and a great guy, just a super guy. Look him up.
And we should mention these festivals were billed as folk festivals,
Yeah,
although there was a little bit more than just folk.
We had
Folk,
Downchild Blues Band. If you're a blues player, then you know the Walsh Brothers. Hawk was the singer.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, rest his soul. So Downchild Blues Band is touring as we speak.
Yep. Mom
right now
says Willie P.
Willie P. Bennett was a great guy out of Peterborough. Anyway, so we had this jam session going on at night, and we started off playing old country tunes.
Sure.
Ended up playing Broadway show tunes, playing rock and roll, playing folky stuff, playing all kinds of stuff until about 5 o'clock in the morning. And that was a typical jam session at the festival. The room, more people coming. Sure. You had about 18-part harmony going on.
Yeah. Because everybody could play and everybody could sing.
And
back when you had to know how to
so if
sing.
you're doing rock and roll songs, you had the girls backing up, the guys, and doing Motown and blues and all kinds of stuff. Just anything.
Yeah.
That people thought of singing. And
Adam asks, didn't Neil Young and Gordon Lightfoot play Mariposa festivals?
That was the year before I started working there. Maggie, she was there when Dylan showed up with the band. No, he didn't show up with the band by himself.
Oh, right.
And Neil Neil Young was there, and Joni Mitchell I think was there, and Maggie knew. Maggie can tell. My wife can tell you a story. You've heard of Gordy Lightfoot, folky musician. Anyway, when Gordy was starting out, he was fairly well known. But she can tell you a story about sitting with Gord and saying, "You're going to be good. You're going to do all right," kind of thing. Just keep at it. And
this is my upbringing, folks.
And so, a lot of the.
Mom says no.
Yeah, she did.
That's what it said.
She hippie girl from Yorkville.
Yeah.
Anyway, back in the 60s, that was interesting. John Allen Cameron was at that jam session.
No.
John Allen Cameron was a Cape Breton folky type singer who became a great friend of mine. I didn't know him in Cape Breton. As I said before, I was born in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, on the east coast of Canada, and I lived there for 19 years. And then I left. I'm the only Cape Bretoner that never cared for the place so much. Some of the people were great, but the place I had no use for. I wanted to come to Ontario and be big city. And actually, for many years, I was more comfortable in the South, in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I thought someday when I retire, if I retire or whatever, I wouldn't mind moving there. Not today. I've since
we won't
kind
get
of
into
changed
that.
my mind at that. But, things have changed a bit in the South, and but I still have friends there and relatives, and that's fine. But At any rate, John Allen Cameron, check him out. He's still on YouTube, and a great party guy, and a great entertainer.
Dave Byron brings up a good point here. I think a version of those days might come back because some of the young kids I would teach would hint to me that they're getting tired of rap.
Well, it's not just rap. It's electronic music.
Yeah.
You know, electronic music.
5 songwriters, 15 producers, and a bankroll.
I remember, when was it, in the 70s or the 80s, when Moog.
Yeah, the Moogs. Yep.
Moog. You know, and synthesizers came out.
Yep.
You know, and people started using drum machines. And the like, and the problem is, and the problem was that that's fine, but they have no heart. You know, part of being a musician is to put some heart and soul into it. You know, and machines have never been able to copy that.
Well, you need the mistakes. Mistakes.
Well,
make
it's
it
not
real.
so much, just a little variety.
Yeah,
you know, that identifies it as being live music. So today I'm listening to, who was it, Jay-Z and Beyonce, who's now Princess Bee or something like the Queen Bee.
Sure.
She's going by
You know more than I do.
Hey,
he's more in tune with pop music than I am, folks.
So they have a new album just come out, you know?
Sure.
And I'm listening, and you can't tell. They've got so much
bass and...
No, well, just tweak the voices. They've got, you know... listening to it was on the news.
Oh, okay.
Old people watch the news.
I watch the news.
Well, you're old. You're getting there.
I am.
Yeah, look at the gray. I mentioned before, my natural color is black, but I dye it white.
Yeah.
Anyway,
wants to be seen as a good guy.
And I cut my hair. I cut my hair twice a year, and I just cut it on Thursday. I'm not too happy about having short hair.
Me neither.
Anyway.
Oh, Sinner's back. What up? What's up, people? Dave Byron says, yes, I remember the Moog. Yes, no heart, the human element. I like it real.
Yeah. Live music is best.
Yeah.
You know, that was the motto.
Dave's a bit of a hybrid. He does gigs solo.
Yes.
He does gigs solo with the backing tracks.
Okay.
He also brings in a singer on occasion. They work as a duo.
Yes.
With backing tracks.
That's popular at the Holiday Inn.
Well, he gigs everywhere.
Yeah.
Down in Florida, right?
But yeah, well, that's where it started.
Yeah.
That's where that stuff started.
Oh, yeah, I was telling you about Dave a few weeks ago.
Well, I've seen guys working in Florida. Yeah. I've done that myself. You know, it's kind of like karaoke.
Kind of.
In a sense.
In a sense.
You know, and I've done karaoke, believe me. Remember that show I did at the Royal Resort?
Yeah. Yeah, you and a karaoke machine.
They brought out a karaoke machine. You know, we're that's another story.
Oh.
Maggie and I took the kids.
You start talking, I'll be right back.
To a resort for over Christmas for a few days. And they had this on Christmas Eve. They had this little party in a ballroom where the staff started singing Christmas carols, and so they asked anybody in the audience to join in. Ta-da! So I stood up with the staff, and we're singing Christmas carols, and so eventually we ran out of Christmas carols, and they started sitting down, and they said, you keep singing. And so the next thing I know, they bring out a karaoke machine. I had never used one before, and I didn't know that you could change the pitch on one. So here I am singing songs according to whatever the setting was on this machine, and I almost hurt myself a few times to hit the high notes, I'll tell you. Anyway, I'm doing a lounge act, you know, singing Tom Jones and Kenny Rogers stuff and Willie Nelson stuff, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I refer to the karaoke machine as my band, the Royal Resort Mountain Boys. That was the band, that was the machine, and
I always like that. Dave and his partner in crime, Mike, the singer. They remind me a lot of your stage banter a lot. Like,
oh yeah,
Mike will say, "Well, I'm going to introduce the band, Dave."
Yeah, there he is, right there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Or when they're going through songs, they got a list of songs. Number 36 from the Union Handbook,
Yeah.
and I just about pee myself every time Mike says that because I'm like, I haven't heard that in 30 years.
One time we're doing a couple of two or three night gig out of town, and the bass player was a funny little guy, and so getting near the end of the night, he's saying to the audience, the room was jammed, there may be 300 or 400 people there. Anyway, so he says to me, we're having a party. You and I are rooming together, and we're having a big party at our room back at the hotel tonight after the gig. And he said, you're all invited. Everybody is invited. And so he said, oh, yeah, there's going to be, drugs and alcohol and sex, and it's going to be a real orgy and a lot of food and everything, and it's going to be a wild time. And I said, really? And I said, how many people you got lined up for this party? He said, well, there's me and you. And that was it.
Yeah. Let's see. Dave Byron says, but I also play, yes, as well as his gigs. Play classical flamenco guitar, but I do this because unfortunately clubs don't want to pay a whole band.
Right.
Sad. Yeah.
Well, that's fine. I have no argument.
Mom chimes in, and when the kids went to bed, Ben said, can you go ask Dad to stop so we can get some sleep?
Yeah. Oh, at the Royal Resort. Yeah, that's true. They'd heard it all before.
Well, yeah, that
but hey,
I used to love when you do you do the showcases and the fundraisers up in Sterling at the theater.
Yeah.
And I used to the first few times I go just to watch.
Yeah.
And I remember because it would be like, okay, you stand right here, don't touch anybody's gear. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You can talk to that band, but stay away from that band and stay away from that band.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And then within a year or so, then you had me running the snack bar upstairs, and I was making a mint.
Indeed.
Loving it.
Yeah.
And I heard, cavalcade of
that was a big,
artists.
This was an old vaudeville theater in a small town north of here called Sterling. And the Sterling Theater was a big old restored vaudeville theater. And the stage was original. It had the floodlights, and the electronics were big.
Yeah.
The
big breakers.
levers to control the curtain and the stage lighting and etc. Now and there was an orchestra pit in front of the stage with a fence around it,
which they partially filled in, but not completely.
No, it was the way it was.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about that orchestra pit, it had a drain in the floor.
Yeah.
And the reason why it had a drain in the floor, because there were two exit doors on either side, stage left, stage right, down where the audience could exit, right? And when it rained, the water poured in the floor, and there was a river running across the walkway in front of the orchestra pit, and it drained into the orchestra pit. So you're playing the song. If it started raining outside, you better be thinking about row, row, row your boat or something, because there was a river running in these doorways and draining through the floor.
Those in the front row.
Now, the other interesting thing about the Sterling Theater was the police station, where they employed one, maybe two cops ever.
Yeah.
Was right next door, attached to the theater.
Yeah.
Now, they had a lockup or jail, and that was located under the stage.
Yep.
So that there was a walkway in and under the stage, and I'm sure those cells are still there today.
Oh, sure. And they might be converted back to dressing rooms because they do plays again there.
No, I don't think that.
Because I think the police station was probably originally a cafe or something attached to the theater.
No,
because it was all kind of one building.
Station. Why would they put the lockup under the stage in the theater.
Well, I figured they converted the cafe into the police station.
No, that was the cop. That
took
maybe
over the
the other.
dressing
I think
rooms.
they made it. I think it's
yeah, but
still
they
the
got
cop.
rid of most of the dressing rooms and stuff at that time. I
There
remember.
wasn't any.
Right.
You just,
Well, there was
just
before.
a big outside. You dressed outside the.
I just got a kick of all the musicians I wasn't allowed to hang out with, trying to share the damn alley with the police force, doing what they needed to do while the cops were doing what they needed to do.
Anyway, that was a great theater to play, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed the hell
Great
out of it.
room.
The acoustics were great.
Yep.
They were, you know.
Good stuff.
And
I'd like to see that place. Yeah. Yeah, now barely ever have music there. Now it's just
no, they do.
community theater mostly.
Yeah, but it's community. But they still have musical acts. Sure, you know, you look it up. The Sterling Theater, Sterling STIR.
Mom says so. The inmates had entertainment. The inmates were the entertainment.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Well, when they got drunk,
Yeah.
they just marched them downstairs onto the stage.
Which
There
was
you go.
great because if you book those bands, you say, well, we also have accommodations.
Anyway, that was the Sterling Theater in Sterling, Ontario, Canada. Check it out.
JC Smith says, coming soon to a YouTube channel near you, the Coombs Family Reality Channel. There we go. Yeah, and Bumblebest says he'd like to see the place. He's in, I believe, Bumblebest, you're in the UK. I'm not saying, wow, it's got to be what? Almost 3 in the morning there? Wow. Speaking of which, we heard from the captain? No, we have not heard from the captain. Well, the captain might be out of luck. We'll see
Well,
what
that's
happens.
okay. We'll just continue on.
Sure.
So what else were we going to talk about? Let me see.
Doug says, JC Smith, you couldn't handle all of us. Yeah, we just wait. And by the way, gang, if you're into car stuff at all, subscribe to NASCAR Canuck, because next year when we go on vacation, we'll be going live on his channel as well as mine in NASCAR country. And who knows what shenanigans we're going to get up to, especially if he leaves the wife and kid at home.
Well, don't say that too loud. Anyway.
I haven't seen Karma in the chat. Karma's not in the chat,
That's
right?
okay. The word, he can't keep a secret. Anyway. So, yeah, we could talk another channel, talk about cars.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. He's got a video of me being, I swear to this day, I thought he was trying to take my photo.
Who?
Doug, on my birthday, and I'm just hopped right up on the White Lightning.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to stay still and failing miserably, and can't talk, couldn't think. Man, that was a rough 23rd of May.
One time I had a...
Watch, his view count's going to go through the roof, because I noticed there was only 2 views, and it was him and me.
Yeah. Playing a wedding one time in downtown Toronto, and just a duo, myself and the bass player, singer, my best friend. And the thing is that I didn't drink. I pretty much given up drinking at that time.
Right.
I used to be a heavy drinker at one time, but when I started gigging a lot, I found that I started the night with a drink and I'd set it on the amp, and eventually at the end of the night I still had half the drink, but not necessarily the bass player, because the more he drank, the louder he got. And it's just me and my Telecaster, and I'm playing. Oh, by the way, you don't see my amplifier here, but from back in the day. But I used to play, if you're familiar with Willie Nelson, he plays a Baldwin Pro amplifier.
I was thinking I got to get that thing out of storage.
And that's what I used for decades. I played a Baldwin Pro, which I bought back in the 60s, about the same time as I bought the Telecaster.
Right.
It was one of the very first solid state amps. And it was a great little amp.
Adam EVH says, Mr. Coombs needs his own channel. And then he says, sorry, Dave needs his own channel. LOL.
Well, one of those, I don't spend a lot of time in music anymore. I have found it difficult to go out and see live music because I'm drawn to the stage. If I go to a concert, I'm drawn to the stage because I can hear all the parts that I would like to be played. Whether it be backup harmonies or guitar sounds or any instrument that I feel is missing.
I have a habit of...
So I end up being overly critical and missing the show.
Yeah, I find
in many
I'm bad
cases.
for that too. If I'm going out to see some buddies play down at Sticks,
Right.
and they're doing a song, and I see there's an empty microphone,
Yeah.
and it needs harmonies,
You ever,
I'll just walk up and do one of these to the guys, and they're like, "Go ahead," and I'll get up and sing harmony.
you ever, what you do it? I'm sorry, who was that? Dave.
Yeah.
If you're doing a single act and you're playing the guitar and you're singing, can you hear the other instruments and the other voices? You know, like in the back of your mind, all the pieces that are missing. You know,
that's a good question, Dave. And see, Mark Taylor, but not that Mark Taylor, says, "You're so lucky to have a musician father, Ben. My parents never did understand my musical pursuits." Well, he understood my musical pursuits. He didn't understand the music I liked at times.
Yeah, but that's okay. You know, my parents were like that. The only thing that my parents ever bought me to do with music was a set of Fender guitar strings just after I started playing in 1963.
And he says he can't hear the rest of the band.
He can?
Yeah. He says, "Oh, yes, I can."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they bought me a set of guitar strings, which were so heavy. They, you know, I'm sure one of them went to a music store and said, "I need some guitar strings." And they picked up, well, these have been on the shelf for 40 years. Yeah. You know, let's sell those.
Yeah, nice, like 13 gauge or something.
Yeah. Oh, they were flat wound, almost bass strings, I'm sure. Anyway, so that was the only thing that my parents ever bought me. They didn't see me as a musician at all, but they didn't see me doing a lot of things.
Right.
You know, and so my family as such rarely, except for my children and my wife, rarely saw me perform at all.
Right.
You know, and one of the reasons why Maggie, my wife, she didn't stay for the whole gig or whatever. A lot of times when I was performing, I was doing just that. When I started playing a whole lot, I looked at the music business and I looked at who was popular at the time. And I took a bit from each character.
Right.
You know? And
now we're talking the early 80s here, folks.
Well, or the 70s, late 70s or early 80s or whatever. That's when I really started gigging a lot. I did gig a fair bit. I mean, I remember one year, it was like 1970 or something.
Right.
I played from November until Easter, 7 nights a week, never in the same place twice in a row.
Right.
You know?
How about that, folks?
And I didn't live anywhere for 2 years. I wasn't married then. You see, I was single. But I had no address. In Toronto, I would have people drive me after the party, after the gig, to the next gig.
Right.
You know, and say, "Here, I'm playing here tomorrow night. I don't know where it is, but we can find out, and you drop me off. You take me there, and I'll play." And I played at parties. I played anything, you know.
Yep.
And somebody always took me home. Anyway, yeah, you know, I played a lot back then as a single or a duo or a three-piece or whatever it happened to be.
It's like when people ask like how many bands you would play this, and it's like it was so informal at that time. You would put together guys to just do a one-off here and there.
Somebody had a gig and they'd say, "Well, we're looking for an Irish folk band." "Yes, sir, that's me and my Irish folk band, you know, the McGregors."
Yeah.
Or something, you know, or "We need a rock band." "That would be me." "Yeah."
And just turn up the game a bit.
"How many pieces were you thinking?"
Yeah.
You know, "Well, we'd like a 3-piece." Pick up the phone. "Hey, I got a gig."
Yeah, because everybody knew all the same material.
But then you see, it was like, "What do you want to hear?" "Well, we love CCR and we love playing it."
Yeah.
So let's, you know, we're playing CCR, you know.
Sure.
And so that was the way it was done. Freelancing.
Yeah.
Everybody freelance, and it's still today.
Yeah, and
If you go to the inner city, or you want a blues band, I'll tell you something. Talk about Chicago. One of the guys that I got to know, rest his soul, was a piano player who was around forever, and that was Blind John Davis. If you're not familiar with Blind John Davis, look him up. He's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, he was a great guy. I knew him fairly well over the years. We spent a lot of time talking, and he had a drummer, S.P. Leary. If you haven't heard of S.P. Leary, Google him. S.P. Leary played with Muddy Waters. He was Muddy's drummer.
Mm-hmm.
When, what's his face, played guitar for Muddy. Not Hendrix.
No. Was it?
Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy played with Muddy Waters. And S.P. Leary was the drummer. I can't remember the bass player's name. It's stand-up bass. Brown, I think is. Anyway, and I don't know why I just mentioned that. Oh, because they were from Chicago.
Sure. NASCAR Canucks says regarding the family, they may not have seen you, but they were definitely proud of you.
Mm.
So,
I think my brother, Doug's father, I gave him a tape one time.
Yeah.
A cassette tape. And he told me he wore it out.
Yep.
And I can't remember what was on that tape.
Yeah.
Or when I made it or whatever. I don't
JC Smith says, holy crap, that's working. I think that was when you're talking about playing every night for months on end.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. And then Dave Byron says, I agree, Dave. We get influenced by our peers. Bumblebest says, John Fogerty was a genius songwriter. And yes, JC Smith says, LOL, imagine if we could make Ben jump like that. Play my genre. Yeah, I'm too jaded. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Dave Byron says, we used to have a guy named Sun Seals Blues Band in Chicago.
Sun Seals.
No. And Calvin Fuzz Jones was the bass player for Muddy Waters. And Doug says it was some Country Raiders stuff. Not possibly.
Oh, okay. That was a band I played with for a few years.
Yeah, it could have even been. You may have recorded one of the practices or gigs or
whatever.
Something. Yeah. Something live.
Well, I don't know what was on that tape, but he liked it, and that's all I care about, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I played with a band called the Country Raiders, and played with them for 3 years or 4 years or something like that. We were
busy,
booked a lot, busy band. Not a great band, but an entertaining band, you know, and we worked an awful lot.
Oh, you had the cool factor.
We did the
with
concert.
That van.
I'll tell you something. One time, we used to do country fairs quite a bit. And we were playing at a country fair one time on an outdoor stage, and the weather started to turn a little iffy.
Yeah.
So they decided we were going to play inside an arena, which was wonderful. You know, they brought the people, and they moved all the equipment, and we went and set it up. The problem was that the audience was sitting in the stands.
Oh, okay.
And we're on the floor.
Right.
In this arena with the ice taken out. It was a hockey arena. So we're standing down here, and the audience is up there. And so you had
kind of the opposite of most venues.
Your mic is and turned down.
You're looking like Lemmy from Motorhead.
I'll tell you one thing. You had to know what you were playing because you never saw your hands.
Yeah.
When you were playing, you couldn't look down because your audience is up there. You're singing to the audience.
Doug says he has that 45 somewhere.
The 45. Yeah, that was the one that I played the 28 on, the fast side.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a slow side, a ballad side.
Right.
And
yeah, I don't even have a copy of that.
No, we don't have a copy of that.
Which I was thinking about that DVD you got. I got to get that figured out.
Yeah, I was given a DVD.
Because I was thinking I'll even post it on the channel here.
You know, a record release party.
If you guys want to see that, if we
that
can
I
get
haven't
it.
seen.
Yeah.
And we did some TV stuff.
Yeah, we got this DVD of Dad playing back in the day. Give us a thumbs up or type something in the chat if you want to see it.
And
Fender Guru says, awesome
another
show.
time we're playing at the Kawartha Downs. It's a horse race track.
Oh, yeah. Jesus.
And the grandstand is enclosed in glass.
Yep.
You know, and all the people were sitting up in the grandstand behind glass. And we're on
climate control.
We're
inside.
on flatbed trailers
outside
by the track. So we're playing up to people that.
Oh God, yeah, I remember I went inside while you were playing, and they were piping the music in through the PA, which was designed purely for vocal, you know, and was all horns. You know, it's like drive-through window or something.
But you know, the money was good.
We're getting some thumbs up, and yes, post vintage stuff. Well, I will work on that, guys.
The money playing at Kawartha Downs was really good. I think they were having a special event.
Oh, that was a good. Yeah, I remember
there.
that.
I think we got like $900 an hour.
Well, I just remember hanging out with you guys, the band.
Yeah.
And I think Randy was doing the sound for you guys. And you know, and it was literally the debate was, this is an absolute SHIT show. But then somebody else in the band would say, but the money's good.
Yeah,
but we got to play on this narrow flatbed. Yeah, but the money's good.
Yeah,
everybody would complain about something, but it was always just fun. But the money's really good.
We played at the stock car track.
Yep.
You know, in between the grandstands, and we played at car shows. We played at a cheese convention.
Yeah.
Cheese manufacturers convention. We played at the barn raising.
Yep.
Farmer built. He had a lot of money, but he hired a live band.
Well, it's an awful lot of thumbs ups, apparently.
And it was damn near froze to death at that.
Oh, yeah. And then Mom says, on the outdoor show with all the bugs.
Oh, we played on the beach.
Yeah.
We played
up at Crystal Beach.
We played a weekend at the beach, and we played at night on this cement pad right on the beach. And the lights, the bugs, and the moths, and you're singing, and you're spitting out bugs and moths and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things.
In there.
To quote Arlo.
Yeah.
Yeah, those wonderful gigs. But they paid so well.
I did a private party. What was that? 2 summers. Remember when I was playing with Smile Harder, and we were playing like every weekend there. You know, by far my busiest weekend, and we were doing the house party deal just up north of Frankfurt, right on the Trent River.
Yeah,
and it's all overgrown, natural habitat. And my God, yeah, when the sun went down, the bugs came out, and I remember I swallowed a bug, and I thought of you, and I went, "Well, the old man did it.
And
I'm gonna have to suck it up and do it."
We're playing out on the beach on the cement pad. The guitar got so hot. When you weren't playing, you put a damp towel over it to cool it down because it was so hot, you know.
Yeah. And you could barely keep it in tune.
Frying your hands. Oh, that's another story. Playing in places where somebody opened the door in the middle of winter, and all of a sudden your tuning just goes to shit. Especially if it was a stage.
You cursed. Door. You cursed.
I did. Well, no, that's an actual word. It's not a swear word. That's a bodily function. That's what that is, and a good description too.
Yeah, and we're talking. This is before you had your volume or your tuner pedal on a pedal board, or even a tuner built into your amp. You had a 1 needle tuner for the band, essentially.
Well, you know, in a lot of places, you know, sometimes you play with a keyboard player.
Oh, yeah.
And you tune to the piano. You had to tune to the piano, and if the piano was out of tune, which it always was, you know, you have a trial on your hands. Is what you do.
Let's see. J.C. Smith says we're lucky enough to ask Dave Byron to help break down stuff and transcribe it for us. Yep. And then Dave Byron says, "Yeah, I can totally relate," and he even mentions a pitchfork.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Hey, Richie still uses a pitchfork when he tunes when he's got guitars on his bench.
Yeah.
He just has a pitch because he's too damn lazy to walk over to the pedal board. He just uses the pitchfork right there. And then I remember he was doing that. He couldn't dial in 1 string with the pitchfork, and I went, "I have an app on my phone now to tune a guitar acoustically." You know.
Well, try tuning with a pitch pipe.
Oh, yeah, I've done it. I've done it.
You might as well whistle.
See, Mom says, "Yeah, you had your ears into tune." Yeah.
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah, it's amazing. Like I'll be watching Dave. He'll stream a lot of his gigs on Saturday nights and stuff, and I can, as soon as if he goes out of tune a bit, like if he restrung the guitar or something, and it's just piercing to me. Yeah. And I feel tempted to type in, like, telling his wife who's shooting it, like, tell Dave to tune up. But then I'll see, as soon as the song's over, he's tap a little fine tune, checks it again, and it's gold.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Stories.
Let's see here. I sent Michael a message a little while ago. I haven't heard back yet. So must be still busy. We'll keep going for a little while anyways. Let me know if you start to feel the effects. We've been going 2 hours here.
I'm all right.
Yeah, wow.
So far.
Yeah, anything you guys want to ask, talk about?
Sure.
Open book here. We've got 18 people watching. Ben might have perfect pitch ears. I don't have perfect pitch ears. I have pretty good pitch. They don't work too well. As long as you play loud enough, I'll hear it. But there's certain frequencies I no longer hear. We know how that is.
Yep.
Of course, using one of these on stage with a metal band for 2 years.
There you go.
The right ear shot because I was always stage left.
Mm-hmm.
That
was another thing, using stuff. Back in the day, there was always parties after the gig.
After party. Well, there still is. Some things haven't changed.
I have no idea. A lot of times I didn't know where we were when we were playing. And I left a beautiful little 12-string electric, solid body electric guitar somewhere, assortment of P56 Shure mics, stands, amplifier, various pieces of equipment, which I, when I woke up the next day, I didn't own them, and I was in another location. And so, yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the things that happen. Chalk it up to experience.
Well, you're lucky enough to have gigged in the day prior to everyone having a damn camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah, hey, we got Dan Sullivan tuning in. Another Canuck.
How you doing?
I'm trying to remember where Dan's from. Dan, are you from Kirkland Lake? I'm not mistaken.
Busy place in the summer.
Let's see. Dave Byron says, yes, Ben, things always happen when you go live, but I love it and appreciate it all. Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure.
Indeed. Who we miss? Who we going to talk about?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. We've talked about
if you're over in England, I'll tell you
there's Absolute Mayhem tuning in from Napanee, Ontario.
Oh, cool.
He owns the 2010 Camaro convertible.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That he was crazy enough to let me drive it.
When did we do that? 4 years ago? We did the Hot Rod Power Tour.
Right.
And I drove a buddy. He and I did the Hot Rod Magazine Power Tour in the U.S., which essentially is you do a car show 7 days a week in 7 different cities in 7 different states.
Yeah. So
you did a car show, you stayed at a hotel, get up early in the morning, you drive to another city, another state, and you set up and you do another car show and the hot rod, and there's thousands of cars on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove a 2010 Camaro, green.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put that car, the guy that owned the car was a bit anal when it came to looking after it. I mean, he whenever we stopped, he had the polish out.
Oh yeah.
And the clean and wiping the dirt and any.
Oh yeah. His is a 2011.
Anyway, you know him. Because you go to the Napanee.
Yeah.
To cruise night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had a good time. I put that car through its paces a number of times, which he was a little white knuckled about. And
nice. Everyone's saying.
I'll tell you the guy's name. I'll tell it to Ben, and
yeah, I'll tell you off air, buddy.
And then you can describe.
Dan Sullivan says, "Think I'll grab a glass of wine." Well, that's good for you.
I used to drink wine when I was a teenager. I drank a lot of wine. Sometimes as much as half a case or a case on the weekend.
Yeah, not by the bottle, by the case.
In Canada,
I'm going to crack a beer.
Bright 74.
Oh.
Or Shadow Gay.
And yes, I open my beers with a microphone.
There you go. Anyway, but I haven't. I gave up drinking a long time ago when I was about 25. I think, yeah, before I was married.
Somebody comments, I remember a car trip that I white-knuckled through Montreal with you.
Oh, that would be Doug.
Yeah, that'd be Doug.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I was driving his father's car.
Yeah.
With two of my brothers and Doug.
Yes.
And it was the middle of the night and we hit construction.
Mom wants to know if you want a drink.
No, I have a bottle of water. Thank you. Right here.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, we let's see.
Yeah, we did have a question for you about some of the other people you had played with. Which is great because it's Doug asking.
Okay, so I'll tell you.
Next year, I'll hear all about it.
I did a show one time. If any of you guys know anything about country music,
I think a few do.
Then you might recognize the song, his biggest hit. And that was a guy out of Nashville by the name of Furlan Husky. Furlan's biggest hit was On the Wings of a Snow White Dove.
Mm-hmm.
On the wings of a snow white dove, he sends his pure sweet. Anyway, Furlan one time, he liked my harmony, and I was supposed to one time. The same agent that booked Furlan gig, he wanted me to join a tour with Waylon Jennings. That never materialized. But let's see, gigs. There were a lot of musicians that I didn't know, that I kind of jumped in with, or guys that guested, musicians, if they were in the house when we were playing a gig, they would get up and jump in.
Which I'm trying to bring back that. Some of the guys, there's no carryover. Nobody
do a couple of tunes or
standards.
Whatever. Yeah. So let's see. An awful lot of them, almost all of them, you wouldn't know because they would be local wherever it happened to be. But those that I've jammed with, a lot of blues musicians, a lot of
folk,
folky type, some country, rock and roll, guys.
Apparently Dan Sullivan was watching this on TV laying on his couch, and now he came to the PC to smoke some Willie's tobacco. Well, you can do that legally in a few more weeks.
Yeah.
In theory.
I'll tell you, I'm on Facebook, and I got a request, friend request recently from a guy that I admired back in the day, geez, I just forgot his name. He song, Conway Twitty recorded a song called Mona Lisa, but
right.
He wasn't the original artist that was a cover tune for him. And oh man, isn't that awful? Anyway, I got a friend request from him on Facebook. He's still playing.
Wow.
Still playing.
Wow.
A lot of the old guys, I hear from them on Facebook. Talk about England, Britain. A friend of mine that's been a Facebook friend for quite a few years now, is Terry Clemson. Terry Clemson was original. He had a stage name. I think his name was Gibbs. Terry Gibbs. Anyway, he don't remember. Anyway, he played with everybody. He played with Chuck Berry. If you look on YouTube, or there is he was doing a gig with Chuck Berry, and Chuck's guitar went for crap. See?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, and so Terry took off his guitar and handed it to Chuck, and here's Chuck playing Terry's guitar. He has some photographs of that, and I think there's some film of that gig. He played with Gene Vincent a lot. Gene Vincent was one of the most underrated 50s performers, you know, and he went to Europe, and so America forgot about him. And he played with oh,
there we go.
Bo Diddley. I believe he played with Bo.
Michael B says, sorry, hey all, sorry I'm late. Welcome, Michael B. He's out of the Boston area, I want to say. Absolute Mayhem. Mona Lisa is a popular song written by Ray Evans and Jay Livingston for the Paramount Pictures film Captain Carey, USA, 1950.
Yeah, but Carl
Perkins didn't remember that.
No.
Oh, didn't he?
Man.
Oh, okay.
Not Carl. Damn, isn't that awful? You forget. I'm terrible at remembering names.
Oh, welcome, Zach Moon, as well.
Hey. Anyway, where was I? Oh, Terry Clemson played with a lot of rock. I don't know if he ever played with Jerry Lee. There's a story. One time when CW phoned me, came up to visit with an entourage, showed up with an entourage. He phones, we're at the border, we're coming up. And he had an entourage with him. And he said, I said, so what are you doing? He said, I just came up from Memphis, actually from Arkansas. And we stopped off in Memphis and saw Jerry Lewis. And I said, okay. And he said, Jerry Lee's not doing anything. I said, so I hear, you know, he hasn't been doing a whole lot lately. This is back in the 80s, early 80s. Anyway, and he said, Jerry wants to put a band together and do a tour. You coming? And I said, well, no, I can't get away. I have gigs,
right?
You know. And he said, well, we need 25 grand. And I said, for what? He said, for a PA. So if we had 25 grand, do you have 25 grand? And I said, no. And so he said, okay, I guess, you know, there won't be any gig. I said, well, it's up to Jerry Lee and you and whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm thinking that would be around the time Jerry had burned a few bridges and stuff. Because if Jerry can't pull 25 grand together in financing, that's
well, you know, see, this is a misnomer that that old musicians have a lot of money because they've been around a long time.
No, that's what I'm saying. But he should be able to borrow that kind of money.
Not at that time.
Not at that time, yeah, because Jerry Lee was definitely Jerry Lee still
he
at
was
that time.
Challenged a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
He's still gigging.
Yep.
Great guy. Anyway, let's see who else we got a story about. Terry Clemson played with everybody that ever toured England, I'm sure.
Pretty much.
And look him up. He's still gigging.
Yep.
He is.
Geez, giving the folks a lot of homework to look up tonight. You know, I hope you guys are writing all these names down.
Everybody's on Carl Mann.
Watch the replay.
Yeah, it was Carl Mann.
Yeah.
Mona Lisa, great voice. Loved his voice.
Nat King Cole also did a cover of it.
Nat King Cole, another great voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Indeed.
Everyone's saying howdy to each other. He's got 24 people watching.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hope you guys, I think they're enjoying it. We got 24 people watching. So either that or they've fallen asleep and left the computer on. And the screensaver hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying to think. All right. So, what did you have any early influences for when you started playing? Like, or was there a guitar player you heard and that put you over the edge that you wanted to play guitar?
Well, my influences, I guess when it came to playing, my very early, like I'm talking the age of up to 5, was country and western.
Right.
My brother and I, one of my older
I was going to
brothers,
say, you might want to narrow that down.
yeah, not Doug's dad, my brother Ken. We used to sit in front of the radio at night and listen to the Grand Ole Opry, or,
Sure.
you know, and all those country and western performers, etc. And my brother Ken was great for writing down lyrics. You know, one of the most difficult things in the early days, because everybody was financially challenged.
Just want to quickly say, Adam EVH has to go. Great stories. Thanks, Dave and Ben. Got to
Okay.
run. Have a great night, everyone. I'm going to catch the replay. Rock on.
All right,
Rock
bud.
on, brother.
Take care. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Yeah. You didn't have the money to buy the record, so you had to request that the song be played on the radio.
Yep.
And write down the lyrics. And you know how many times you have to request a song played? You know, if it was a new tune and a hit tune or whatever.
Right.
My brother Cam was great at writing out lyrics, and he did. He had stacks of printing lyrics of old country, Hank Williams, you know, Hank Snow, Hank Lachlan.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was a fan of that stuff for a while, but then rock and roll,
Right.
you know, the mid 50s showed up,
Right.
you know, 54, 55, and Memphis, Sun Records.
Being able to tune in those radio stations
Jumped
from
in.
down there.
Well, then we could
Right.
afford, we got to buy records,
Right. Okay.
you know, and friends.
Right.
Everybody had a record player, so
Sure.
you borrowed.
Yep.
And you listened, and house parties,
Sure.
people would bring their collection or whatever. Anyway, so I liked Little Richard, Chuck Berry,
Yep.
Jerry Lee Lewis,
Yep.
Elvis to a point, Carl Perkins,
Yep.
Carl Perkins, and all of the Sun people and others, Johnny Cash, somewhat.
Yeah.
Early Johnny Cash.
Buddy Holly?
He had a good voice. John. Buddy Holly was that was later in the 50s.
Okay.
When you know, Bo Diddley,
Sure.
a lot of, you know, some of the female artists, you know, but we had, you know, we used to get records given to us of earlier, you know, artists from the 40s or the 50s or whatever, records that people didn't want anymore. So, yeah, you know, and the popular stuff as well. It would probably be easier to list who I didn't care for.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
Pat Boone, never a fan. My wife, big fan. Me, no.
Not so much.
I was never a Pat Boone fan. I had a
Fats Domino?
Fats Domino I loved, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The And then, of course, the bands came along.
Sure.
But they were my influences back in the day. And then, of course, later on in the 50s, early 60s, I liked Dwayne Eddy.
Sure.
You know, the guitar players. And then, you know, the Ventures and the Beach Boys, and it went through a whole eras. You know, in a few months, you had beach music, cartoons, you know, car songs, and Motown, of course, a big influence. I love Motown. You know, one of the problems with Motown was you didn't see a lot of it on TV.
Right.
You saw the singers, but you never saw the band.
Right.
So you had to guess at
what
you were playing if you were doing Motown.
Sure.
And it wasn't until a few years ago, my daughter and I went to a concert.
Right.
Of
what were they called?
Of
the backing band, the Motown band. Yeah. Wasn't the Beat Brothers?
No. So that's sad. They played.
It's not the Swampers. That's
No.
South. Not the West Coast guys. It's not terrible.
Terrible at names. And I know this, anyway, and it was there that I justified the
Funk Brothers.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Isn't
Mom.
that awful? I'm in bad shape. Anyway, you know, it sucks getting old. You know, it really does. I've never been good at names.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about a girlfriend I had one time when I was a teenager. It was New Year's Eve, and I was at a friend's house, and he had dated this girl, and she had a sister who was a lot better looking than her. I'll tell you.
Hey,
anyway,
we got two.
Hi, you're home, I hope.
Wow, we got the whole family.
Anyway, so he phones up and invite this girl over, you know, for a visit at his house.
Right.
And so she comes over, and when we get to know one another, I walked her home, and she lived a few blocks away, and I hadn't known her before.
She says she's home.
Yeah, great. I hadn't known her before, and so she said, give me a call. I said, great. You know, give me your phone number. And so she did.
Right.
And a week went by.
Right.
And I didn't phone her. And she phoned me. She said, you said you were going to phone. I said, I can't remember your number. She said, well, my number's in the book. I said, I can't remember your name either. So she said, well, and we went out on a date, and we started dating. We went steady for a while. And I remember her name now.
There we are.
She married a musician.
Uh-oh.
Had 2 kids, same as a boy and a girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I saw something. Bruce was asking, are you a fan of Bob Dylan at all?
I have been, and I am, but not as big as I should be. In the early days, I was a fan, but not. Let's put it this way: I don't ever recall buying an album of his.
Right.
Although I own
a casual fan, we'd say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Michael B brings up a good point. I think he's correct. This has to be a yearly thing.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Hey, I'm not getting any younger. You know what I'm saying here?
We'll try, Michael B. We'll try.
Yeah, right. An annual event on Father's Day.
Yeah. And it's Dave, not Mr. Coombs, Michael. You're tuning in late. So.
Yeah. My father was Mr. Coombs.
Yeah.
Did I mention that my mother and father were cousins?
No, you didn't. You didn't need to mention that either.
This has a lot to do with the conversation that we've been having.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I look so much alike. In fact, and the genealogy study that I did with my sister together, we studied our family genealogy, and it was real easy.
Oh yeah, Doug's loving that, and Mayhem's loving that.
Yeah, it was real easy when your parents are related. So
something else I saw in there too. Oh yeah, Absolute Mayhem asked if you had any dealings, run-in, meeting up with anybody from the Canadian rock scene.
oh boy,
He referenced Rush, among other, but something in the rock vein.
In the rock vein and Canadian.
Or even rock and not Canadian. Something in the rock vein.
No, I'm just thinking in terms of. I'm sure I have.
It's very nice to say, Dave Byron.
I'm sure I have, but let me see.
I think you saw Rush play at a car show once.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who it was. Getty. You don't forget Getty, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I think it was
probably one of their first gigs.
It was back in the day in Toronto at the car show, Speed Sport, actually, at the exhibition grounds. Friends, let's see, rock musicians. I'm sure.
Haley thinks that's cool.
What's that? Oh,
he thought that was cool.
Yeah. Everybody starts somewhere.
Exactly.
And, and people are people.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what level they're at. I don't care if they're a superstar or billionaires or whatever, or just trying to grind out a buck or two, or, people are people after all, and musicians pretty much all started out the same. Maggie, her brother, if you're Canadian or in Toronto, Bob Rice, he worked for a radio station when he started when he was 16 at the radio station in Richmond Hill, and he was a top 40 guy, Bobo Rice, and later on he flew traffic helicopter, fixed wing, and then helicopter for the radio station. So he used to do the traffic reports. With Deanie Petty, she flew as well.
Yep.
And Bob used to do that stuff. But David Clayton Thomas was a friend of his. And Maggie, they went to high school together. And he used to come by their house. This was before I knew them. The Good Brothers, if you're, folky country, I
saw the gangs all back together in that department this week.
They are, and she went to high school with them, and they still remain friends today. Murray McLaughlin was another guy that we got to know fairly well, working in Toronto.
Where do you think I get it from, Mayhem? So it sounds like something I'd say. People are people. So where do you think I got it from?
Well, they are. I
grew up in this environment, bro. I've told you.
He's
heard the story. He hangs at the vape shop a lot. Eh?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he likes hearing stories from me. So yeah, I saw Dave Byron asked Dave, "Have you ever met Gordon Lightfoot?"
Maggie has
several times.
I don't recall ever. No, Maggie has, my wife.
And then we got from ET 5150. Get a few Van Halen nuts in here. You see the ET 5150, the Romeo Delight,
the amp.
Yeah, we love that stuff. So he says, "What's Canada's best and worst musical exports? And worst, just exclude Bieber."
Well, they're all great.
Sure.
I just excluded Bieber. No, I'm just kidding. He's done very well for what he has.
Yep.
Caleb
Rapoport that was in here earlier at the beginning of the show was playing pickup hockey on Friday night, and he plays in the same little pickup game that Bieber plays in, actually.
Yeah.
So everyone was saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
Can you please play for the other team tonight?
Yeah.
Because
Take up
Caleb's
boarding.
6'4". Yeah, Caleb's 6'4". So
Yeah. Anyway, listen, anybody that can make a living, and they're very rare, make a living in the music business has my vote. You know, like
Sure. Geez, I'm almost thinking we're gonna have to have Mom on for next Mother's Day, because she's like, I met the Guess Who back in '69.
Yeah, that's true. And what's his face?
From the Guess Who?
Yeah.
Burton Cummings?
Used to play in town here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Burton Cummings used to play in town here.
Yeah. I don't know. See, I used to go around and see it when I was running the local.
Yeah.
You know, the Musicians Federation local. I used to go around and check, you know, contracts and make sure everybody was okay. You know.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mayhem's related to Burton Cummings.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm sure he has lots of relatives.
Yeah. Well, I can kind of actually see it in his DNA.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great musician.
Let's see. Mark Taylor says, your dad has had an interesting life. Great guest. Have him back again. Well, the commute isn't too bad to do these events, really. It's just
like
down the hall and around the corner.
We really didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, we sat down earlier today, and I said, we just started shooting the breeze as we usually do. I said, yeah, this is it. This is what we do, except we'll have other people picking our brains and stuff.
So we just sat down, and he said, oh, okay, let's chat.
Let's see.
I've been doing most of the chatting.
Dave Byron says, wow, Maggie, that's awesome. Yes, and it's tough to be a full-time musician. Hey, Brett. I believe that's my coworker, Brett Green.
Hey.
Yeah, I've been off the last 2 days. He's had to man the fort down in Napanee.
All right.
He says, make him a regular.
Irregular or a regular? Tobin
says, well done. And Tobin, just confirm with me, are you in fact a Canuck? And what province? I'm just curious. R2 says Cheech and Chong came from Canada and moved to LA to do the comedy. Well, yeah, Tommy was based in Vancouver, and Cheech Marin went up there for some reason. I can't remember.
Along with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
That
I don't know if it was drafting some or
isn't that when Hendrix he showed up there too?
Yeah, Hendrix
he worked there for a long. Worked out of BC.
And Bruce is saying, can this at least be monthly? Well, let's see, Bruce. We got the monthly roundtable. We got the subscriber hit. Okay, yeah, Tobin is the one in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Right.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Tobin. Right.
Right.
Harry Tobin. I think he used to work at the airport there. I don't know if he's still alive. He was an old family friend.
Does that ring a bell? I think
the Tobin's from Mechanic Street.
Chad is his first name. We became friends on Facebook.
Okay.
Recently.
Anyway,
I get friend requests every day now, and I love it from all these fine folks. So
yeah,
it's hard to remember who's whom. Canadians are great people, Dave Byron says. Well, thank you.
Some are.
Most.
A lot of them. Yeah, not all.
No. We keep a few jerks around just to make the rest of us look good.
Yeah, I was born in Sydney, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, in 1947, and I lived there until I was 19. Just after high school, I left. I never really cared too much for the place. I liked a lot of the people, but the place didn't do a lot for me.
Well, the choices were limited upon educating yourself, right? You really had a handful of things to go into industry-wise.
Yeah. So I moved to Ontario, and I've lived here ever since. This is kind of like home now. We've lived in this house for 40 years.
Yeah. Dan Sullivan says, we're like every nation. We have our jerks, but the Canadians that are morons are pretty good.
Yeah.
Or that aren't morons are pretty good. There we go.
The music business, it's damn sad. And another thing that we should talk about, okay, that somewhere in the 1980s, I think it was, or the 70s, this whole idea of showcasing your band. Come and we'll put you on stage. We won't pay you, by the way, you know, but you can try and gain an audience or become popular and work your way up in the business. And it turned out that a lot of bands started the battle of the bands and all that crap.
It's even worse now.
You know,
pay to play now.
Yeah.
Not even play for free, but pay to play.
Right. Back in the early days, it used to be a 60-40 split if there was a cover charge.
Right.
You know, but somewhere musicians decided that they would play for nothing because they felt that it was too competitive. And I always said, if you want to play for nothing and get yourself an audience, set up on any street downtown in any town, and you will have an audience, and you can play your heart out for as long as you want for nothing, you know. But when it comes to business, you know, there's no reason why somebody operating a bar or any, you know, whatever it happens to be, should be making money and you're providing the entertainment. And so, you know, I just never agreed with it. You're not in the music business, you're running a charity. And the other thing is, when you do charitable gigs, there's nothing wrong with raising money for cancer or raising money for this kid or that kid or whatever. But I tell you, if you're raising money for any association, get a check for your regular gig. You know, if you charge $1,000 a night, make them write a check for $1,000 and then donate it back to the charity. Okay. And get your picture in the paper for doing so. Don't forget about the free promotion, right? Make sure the presentation is one of these big checks.
Yep. Pay attention to this, folks.
Okay. And you donate it back. And then if you're a legitimate band and a legitimate musician and you have to pay taxes on your income, then that becomes a business write-off tax deduction. Even, you know, so it's important, if you're going to be in the music business, set yourself up as a business.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a touring musician or you get a contract offered to you by anybody, get yourself a damn fine contract lawyer. Okay? Because you don't want to be taken advantage of, and you will be, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
You know, because people are in the business, agents, managers, you know, booking agents, all these people, recording companies, studios, they're all in business to make money. And if they can make money off you, then they will.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. They do their homework and they know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
So you have to know what you're doing as well. It's really important that you take care of business. That didn't come from people looking after their home. That came from musicians saying, take care of your business.
Yep.
Or you ain't going to be around very much longer.
Dave Byron says, Dave, I agree. Songwriting contest and only ones making money are the people who rent out the venue. And then Michael B chimes in, we only got suckered into one contest and we didn't use our own cash. Awful racket.
Yeah.
And Dave Byron says, yes, Dave, Deb and I have an attorney to protect us. They're kind of a husband and wife team. His wife, before they even met, she's been doing professional sound for decades.
Cool.
And so she still takes care of the PA and mixes them and stuff. And yeah, they got a nice little operation going down there in Florida.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Dave Byron again. He's been gigging. Well, he started playing in '74, and he's basically never stopped.
There you go.
Always hustling.
Yep.
He had the day business to offset the musician side as well when they needed the big gear and this and that. Like, yeah, I remember he's saying, you know, he's gone over to Europe, done the festivals on occasion and stuff, and so he's got some great stories as well. So, if you aren't already, subscribe to Dave Byron, folks. He's a great guy, great soul, and Rockin' Dave. Man, Okay. He makes me feel very old and tired because he'll go live at a gig and he and his buddy get up there.
Water.
And they'll start playing at 7 at night. And they'll go for 2 or 3 hours without stopping. And I was like, set breaks, guys. Come on. You know, make the rest of us look bad. Dan Sullivan says, we played for free once, but we did it more for us to just get over the stage performing. Sure. And we got offers right after. So sometimes it's not so bad. It really depends on the situation. Yes, I agree. I do what they call karma shows. Like I did that benefit a couple months back for a homeless shelter, I think it was. And I did it. I was into it, one, because one of the other bands playing that night, I really wanted to share the stage with them. And two, we're giving back to the community. And we're playing for an audience that would never normally go to any of the venues I normally play at. So we got to play in front of completely different people, which was awesome.
The other thing that bothers me is bands today or musicians today working for the same money that was being paid 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, I make the same money gigging in the same bars that he played in 30 years ago.
That kind of bothers me to some extent. Now I realize that the clientele, like, I mean, back in the day, people were interested in being entertained. You know, they wanted to go out and dance and have a few drinks or whatever and have a good time.
Yep.
And you play gigs, you know, and man, you know, there'd be a good audience most every night of the week.
Yep.
You know, and certainly on weekends, the places were rocking, you know.
Standing room only.
Well, yeah, and it just, and having a great time, you know.
Yep.
And so, you know, like the bar owners would, or club owners or whoever would pay accordingly. But today,
I think a big part of it is
the audience today are more judgmental.
Well, a little bit, and
you know,
you got the no smoking in the bars.
Yeah.
They've really cracked down on drinking and driving, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. But also, I touched on it last night. Was especially around here. This was a manufacturing province, so we had a lot of undereducated, overpaid workers. You know, like you had your high school education making $15-20 an hour 20-30 years ago, so they could afford to go out and drop a bunch of money on $2 beers and this and that. And people just don't have that liquid income they once had.
Talking about stage experience, okay? I always told guys that were just starting out, whether they were on stage with me or whoever, or as a band themselves or whatever. Here's the deal. If you are hired to do a job, to do a gig, okay, you have to realize one thing, because a lot of musicians, they don't like criticism. They don't take it very well.
No.
And there's always, always, always somebody who's very critical of the band or the entertainment. So here's the deal. I used to say to them, if they were any better than you, you'd be watching them on stage. You know, they'd be the ones with the gig, but they're not.
Yep.
I don't care how good they are. If they're not on stage making the money, then you deserve to be there, do your thing, take your money, and go on to the next gig.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it, you know.
R2R3 Locking Nut chimes in. My favorite is playing when it's 100 degrees, high humidity outdoors, playing for beer. He said that, and Dan Sullivan comes back, that would be depressing.
That better be a pool party.
Yeah.
You know, a house party or some kind of, you know, private.
And I tell you, the wave of the future, guys, if you want to gig and have fun and actually make some decent money, private parties, because I detested the idea 2 years ago, and then I started doing it. And the appreciation from the crowd.
Well, yeah.
Because
they're like old school.
Well, like not only that, but they're just happy nobody just showed up with an iPod and plugged it into a stereo.
Right.
You know, they're like, wow, we get to see live a band. This is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and usually there's a big barbecue, so the band gets fed, plus paid, plus usually, you know, if you want a beer, somebody will hand you a beer, and
And the other thing, you know, that concerns me somewhat about musicians today is they, you know, like back in the day, if you were going out to gig, if you know, like if you were, even if you were doing a small tour or whatever, you practice 7 hours for 7 days, and then you're ready. If you're not ready to play gigs, then you're never going to be ready to play gigs.
That's right. You got a problem with your lineup.
7 hours a day for 7 days.
That's right.
Okay. Do not rehearse yourself to death. Okay. You're not going to get any better.
No.
Or whatever, you know, but you don't have to, if you're not making good money, you know, then you don't have to strive for perfection when it comes to the music. What you simply want to strive for is just be entertaining. You don't have to be perfect at everything, and everybody makes mistakes. I don't care who you are. Just keep playing. You know, start together, finish together, and what you do in between, nah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if your audience is there to hear you reproduce a record,
yeah,
then they might as well be playing records.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what you're going to be doing. You're just going to reproduce what's already there.
Michael B brings up a point, and yeah, I can totally relate. I'm in the same boat. My buddies who do cover work still get paid. Yeah, you don't get paid for original music. You got to play covers to get paid.
Yeah.
But it's only side work where it used to be much more. Yeah. Crowds are aging, going out less. Younger people go to dance clubs where DJs get the gigs. And the sad part is the younger crowd will pay twice as much for a cover charge to hear a DJ blast their eardrums than pay half as much, which is an extra drink or two, to see a live band.
But yeah, so that's okay.
That's a great gig. Dan Sullivan says, we're playing the Legion in town. We love the idea.
I played a lot of Legions, man. A lot of Legions.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't forget to take off your hat.
Yeah.
Except when you're on stage.
You can wear it on stage. Exactly. And those gigs are great too because they don't usually like to go as late.
No, that's true. And they pay.
Yep.
You know, at least they used to.
Yep. Yeah, we've gotten to a point as a band as we'll knock off $50 off our night fee if we can finish an hour or two earlier.
Something about playing Legions. The only problem is there's an awful lot of people in charge.
Yeah.
And you're always too low or you're too high. It's too quiet or it's too loud.
Yeah, the guitars are too loud. The vocals aren't loud enough. Because and you know what it is? People are used to karaoke now. They want the vocals twice as loud as the rest of the band. And that doesn't work with us. Richie's not that strong a singer.
Well, see, there you go. There you go.
And Dan says, and I wear a hat on stage.
Yeah.
LOL. Yeah. Let's see. They pay really well here. Well, considering. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They do. They do.
They're okay.
Yeah, we've got a gig coming up.
Just put up with the nonsense of, 18 bosses.
Well, I thought it was funny is, I got called a week or so ago about a gig.
Yeah.
And the lady asked what we charged, and I don't say a flat rate. I told her $100 a set. And she went, well, our budget for the night is only $300. And I'm used to playing 4+ sets a night.
Sure.
And so I went, well, $300. She says, but you're playing 9 to 12. Well, I'm like, well, I did the math. That's 3 sets. That's $300 at $100 a set.
Okay.
And so I took it to the guys and I said, when we try to do at least $400 a night for the band, I said, well, I got good news and bad news. I said, what's that? I said, the bad news is we're only getting $300 for the gig.
Yeah.
They said, what's the good news? I said, we're done at midnight, boys. And they went, yes. And they were more than happy to each take up $20 less or so.
Yeah.
To be home at a decent time. And, you're not dragging your butt in the door at 3:34 in the morning or something. Because they want you to play till last call at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And even by then, you're playing for 4 people in the bar staff. See, the DJs are good guys and they are entertaining, but it's one guy or gal in a band loses out. Well, it depends. Are we talking an actual DJ that DJs or someone who's merely playing records?
Well,
right.
We have a nephew. I have a nephew.
Yes.
A grandnephew who's a DJ.
He's an actual DJ.
Yeah.
He's up there. He's mixing stuff.
Yeah.
He's not my scene, but I can at least appreciate it because the way I see it, you're almost playing an instrument.
He works worldwide.
Yeah.
He plays
And
in Europe.
yeah, when you're doing live mixes,
Yeah.
that is playing an instrument in many ways.
Yeah.
Just pressing play on a CD player. I've done DJ gigs. I hated it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, so a person will get a little ticked if you're playing in a band and you can't play their favorite song. But if you're a DJ and you don't have their favorite song, forget about it.
Yeah, well, today you just punch it up, right?
I didn't have an internet connection. See, the guys that spin do get the crowd dancing. Yes.
Yeah.
The band is losing out. You need to look at all the alternatives. That's true.
Yeah, or maybe you're
and create the gigs.
Maybe you're not playing the right stuff.
There's a reason why they call the songs standards, and there's a reason a lot of bands play the same songs.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like playing them,
Hey,
there's standards for a reason.
It's indeed,
Let's see. Dave Byron says, if everyone, and I mean everyone, were to stop gigging, would it make a difference?
Make a difference?
Only on the grand scale, like your upper echelon. People would miss the major concerts, but I don't think anybody miss you playing at a local bar.
No.
I think we're past that point. A jukebox suffices. Karaoke night.
Unless you have a following,
That's true.
But if you have a regular following, if you're just playing gigs, say, within 50 miles or within an hour of home.
Yeah.
After a while, you develop a following, and they like to come out and see you, and they'll follow you around. There's a lot of people.
Yeah. We've got a few.
Oh, so-and-so's playing here. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to have that with one of my old bands. Remember, she lived up around Campbellford area. And we'd be playing a Tuesday night in Toronto, and she'd
about
show up.
half an hour away from us.
Yeah, I'd be playing up in Toronto on a Tuesday night, and there she is.
Which is 2 hours away from us.
Yeah. And it'd be like, what are you doing here? And I got a place to crash down the street in Scarborough or something like that. And
yeah.
Let's see. And R2 says, I'm okay making sounds out of my guitar anytime, money or no money. Yeah, now R2 used to gig a lot, and now life. So he's not gigging.
Well, yeah.
And that's fine.
That's, whatever. I just think that if you're a working musician, then
he's done the Chicago scene.
Sure.
Playing his Randy Rhoads Flying V. Yeah, he's a bit of the name R2, R3 locking nut, referring to the locking nut of a drum system,
of
right?
course, yeah. So other than that,
I don't think we're going to get the captain tonight, folks. I messaged him a little while ago. I haven't heard back, so we're going on 3 hours. So any last questions or anything? We'll start wrapping things up here. I once read that if you make a mistake, play it twice so people will think you did it on purpose. That's what he always told me.
Yeah.
You screw up the first verse, screw it up the same way in the second. It becomes an
original.
Yeah.
Right? It's your interpretation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Dan Sullivan just bought a Les Paul for my band and me. Won't lie. So I have to recoup the investments. Yes. Doing it right, like assuming, because, again, he's playing in Ontario. If you do gigs similar to me, you'll have that thing paid off after about, 8 to 10 gigs. And Michael B says, just thanks for the great show.
Hey.
You're more than welcome, brother. He's doing a cool thing. He knows about these computers and stuff more than we do. Yeah. And he set up a way for us to virtually jam through the interweb.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, without all the latency and stuff. Let's see. Doug says, hey, Ben, how about ending with one of my 2 requests? No.
That's the answer to your first request.
Yeah.
The second request? The answer is
no.
There you go. So get used to that answer.
See, Sullivan says, yes, thank you very much. So nice to hear people who know what we go through. We're all in it together, buddy.
Hey.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dave Byron says, looking back, Dave, would you ever change anything?
That I've done?
Yeah.
Not really. I don't think so. I probably would have liked to have played longer. There are certain gigs that I was offered that maybe I should have paid more attention to. You know, most of them involve traveling. My wife has always been very understanding when it came to my gigging.
Yep.
Or where, you know, I'll tell you a story. We were in Barrie. We were at a festival, and one of the headliners at the festival was John Hartford. If you don't know who John Hartford was or is, he's a banjo player. He wrote the song Gentle on My Mind for Glenn Campbell.
Nice.
He used to do the Glenn Campbell show when Glenn Campbell had his TV show.
Good night to you, Dry Heat 480.
Hey. Anyway, he shows up with a he was
Good night, Mom.
Night. He was in Ohio doing the gig, and he came up to Canada.
Right.
Drive. You know, they were in a Silver Eagle bus, and he had his road manager with him and whatnot. We got to know each other fairly well during the course of a day, and Maggie and I walked him over to the bus. The band, you know, his people, his entourage had loaded on the bus, and he's standing by the driver, right? And so I said, well, so long, see you sometime. And he looked at me and he said, you want to come with us? We're headed for Nashville.
Yep.
And I looked at Maggie, and I was about to say, Maggie, ship my 28 and my Telecaster. I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was step on the bus. Gone. Opportunities like that used to come fairly often. But the fact that I had 2 kids and a wife at home, and it always,
in the music business is no guarantees.
well, it always made me have second thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, about what I wanted, and what I wanted. You know, I mean, my kids and my wife are my life. You know, nothing is more important than that to me, and so that was
Michael B says, good night all. Gotta wash off the lobster, whiskey, and bug spray.
there you go.
Yeah, he's a Massachusetts boy
Life
right
is
there.
tough.
Yeah. Let's see. Night, big bro and dad. Night, everyone. Amanda says, good night, sis.
See you in the morning.
Here, let's see. Dave Byron says, that's so good, Dave. You're an inspiration, and God bless you for that. And
Well, thank you.
see, we have the next best great community. That's true, guys. Let's see. Everyone's saying hey to each other. And yeah, so I want to thank you for coming on for Father's Day.
Hey,
This has been awesome. I thank each and every one of you for
Yeah.
watching. Leave us a thumbs up on
do
the
I
video.
get paid for this?
No, I don't get paid for this.
You don't?
No. We're doing it for exposure.
Okay. Wait a minute. I'll take out my shirt.
Yeah, if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Make sure that bell looks like it's ringing so you'll get notified anytime I upload a video or go live. What else? We're trying to get the NAMM, Richie and me, so there is a GoFundMe campaign going on, and one of the links down below. We got a PayPal account that helps out. We have a contest. I never even mentioned the contest. We got a contest. If you want to win a Dimebag Darrell wah pedal, go on any previous video.
A wah pedal.
Yeah,
Whoa.
a couple R2R3 Locking Nut donated it to the channel.
All right.
It's great because Darrell played
So
in Pantera.
What do you have to do to win this?
All you have to do is comment on a previously any of my old videos and just type in I want that wah, and you're entered in the contest. We're doing the draw on Canada Day, July 1st, at the next Canucks with Guitars Roundtable special.
All right.
And yeah, enter. So thanks again to everyone for tuning in.
Thank y'all.
And I will say, he says he wasn't a hell of a lot of player, but man, a hell of a sideman, hell of a harmonist as well as lead vocalist, in my opinion. I based a lot of my playing on this guy right here. And Fender Guru says, give you a beer. Doesn't drink.
I gave up drinking.
And see, Fender Guru says, I want that wah, but it doesn't work in here, buddy. You got to actually go on to one of the previous videos because I don't see the chat once it's done. And I'm not sitting through 3 hours. I'm sorry. And R2R3 says, wah, wah, waka, 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 waka. Yes. Good night, everyone. Great show, Ben. Mark Taylor says, so yeah. So until next time, as Dave Byron has lifted from me, one of my catchphrases.
Did he?
Hold those doors open for each other, folks. He takes it as hold those doors open of opportunity and let others join in.
Mm-hmm.
I just like being a good person. So I hold doors open for people. Let that guy in ahead of you in traffic.
Right.
You know, be a good person. Karma is a real deal. You're good. Good things will happen to you.
Yeah.
Dave Byron says, totally awesome, Ben. We'll watch over again and recommend this video to everyone. Good night and God bless to all.
Yay.
Awesome. Dan Sullivan, thank you very much, Ben, for doing this. Your dad is the dad I wish I had. Well, there we are. Well, there you go, folks. If you got insomnia and you're on the East Coast, there's going to be another video coming up. Let me think which way we're facing. Subscribe here, video here if you're watching on the replay. Until next time, peace.
You know what I used to say?
What?
We all done playing now.
We are. Rock on.
Peace.